Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was a teacher in My Hero Academia. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by BONESBOY15 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. 1. The Insurmountable Hero. A youth walked out of a convenience store with a popsicle in his mouth and his eyes glued to his phone while 3 full bags of snacks and groceries hung from his other hand. It seems that crime has gone up in the city, the teen thought. Golden brows furrowed together in thought. 1% might not seem like a lot to many, but when those that society deemed villains start acting up, it means that the deterrent of heroic presence isn't working. The teen looked up when a nearby storefront exploded not a block ahead of him, causing civilians to scream and an alarm to blare out into the street. His blue eyes went half-lidded as a trio of villains with heteromorphic quirks ran out of the smoke with bags full of various baked foods and cash. One wore a black mask, despite his 4 arms and a body of blocky steel making him rather recognizable. Each of his hands carried 3 plastic bags on the verge of bursting. Another looked like a folded paper man with red eyes all over, easily the tallest of the bunch, and had the least amount of goods with him. The third and final villain was a skinny guy with a horse's skull for a head. He was pulling a young moss-haired girl with him who was struggling in vain to escape his grip. Judging by her uniform, she was a student of UA, the #1 school for heroes in the entire world. Given that they were coming out of a Star Dollar, he wasn't too surprised to see the student there. Case in point. The youth muttered. He pocketed his phone and his popsicle swirled in his mouth for a second before he pulled the stick, barren of eyes, out. He set his bags on a mailbox and sighed. Great, I'm going to be late on my first day, what a terrible way to make an impression. He paused and hummed before he tilted his head as something occurred to him. Although, it'd be living up to sensei's expectations. With an amused chuckle at the thought, the youth started walking towards the trio. He tossed his popsicle stick into the recycling bin and unzipped his jacket. Time to get to work. Everybody stay out of our way, unless you wanna die. Steel Bulwark barked as he led his group into the street. The petty theft was part of their group's plan, but it would be a hindrance if they got caught in the act. It was so early, though, that Bulwark figured most of the heroes in the city would be starting their day in their agencies, ending their long nights, or busy with other early bird crimes. Bulwark looked at his fellow villains. Thousand Eyes, Horsepower, you 2 slackers still with me? Yeah, we're here, now let's get out of here before a hero or the cops show up. Thousand Eyes urged the other 2 villains nervously. 3 red eyes on his body turned to their last companion, who was scanning the petrified crowd of civilians that were starting their regular days. Horsepower. Where's the car? It's just up the block. Relax, paper boy. Horsepower scoffed. He grunted when something struck him in the side. I'm just dealing with our insurance. Bastard. You're lucky I can't use my quirk. The girl snarled as the villain pulled her with him. Her foot lifted and kicked into his side. Let go, already. Yeah, sure, top of my to-do list. Horsepower snorted before he tilted his head at his companion's flat stares. What? Hostage taking is the best way to ensure we don't get taken down. And the fact that she's a student of UA? Thousand Eyes asked flatly, pointing out the girl's gray uniform. Meh, details. Horsepower shrugged before he chuckled. He tugged the girl closer and hooked his arm around her neck, keeping her in place as he put his equine-like skull head next to her face. Besides, you see the knockers on this chick. Talk about a short stack. We can have all sorts of fun with her. Blech. Not on your life, creep. The girl stuck her tongue out at the lech. Steel Bulwark rolled his eyes while Thousand Eyes' many eyes narrowed. That wasn't part of the plan. The paperman groused. We have to get back to. Stow it, you oversized slip of unfolded origami. Horsepower snapped as he tightened his arm around the student's neck. You might not have had a date since junior high, but I'm a virile stallion. I gotta keep my skills up to par. He knocked his head against the girl's. Trust me, girlie, you'll enjoy every second of it. I doubt that your micro will be all that impressive, bonehead. The girl snarked. Steel Bulwark barked out a laugh while Thousand Eyes snorted. Horsepower gained a tick mark over his head. You little. He tightened his grip on her neck and started to choke her. Oh, I was gonna be nice about it and let you enjoy the ride, but now I can see you're a fighter through and through. Trust me, buddy, the girl croaked out around a smirk. You couldn't handle me if you tried. TCH, snarky little. Well, I was trying to think up some clever quip on how there's some decent dating apps out there, but I think she's doing well enough on her own. The 3 villains looked up at the new speaker. Walking calmly up to them was a tanned young man with wild blonde hair and an orange and black running pants. The orange jacket looked like it belonged on a motocross track and bore the numbers 009 down either arm, topped with padded white shoulders that matched the padding around the wrists and forearms, while the black pants looked like they came out of a sportswear section of any clothing store, and paired with his orange running shoes, he didn't look like a hero at first glance. But a guy out on a jog with a weird coat. However, the youth was tall, just barely passing 6 feet in height, with the build of an athlete, exposed by his unzipped jacket, but decency was kept with a black shirt that had a golden ring around where his navel would be. The youth's eyes were closed and a toothy grin was on his face, a sight not all too dissimilar from the symbol of peace and justice, but it was not as broad or wide as the smile that belonged to the world's greatest hero. Given that the youth's face was heart-shaped and his tan peach skin was marred by 3 lines on either cheek, he looked more like a mischievous fox than All Might. His eyes cracked open, revealing 2 blue orbs within, and his grin fell. A heavy pressure filled the area. "Look, I'm running late. Just let the girl go, drop the crap you stole, and give up, will ya? I don't want to send another group of idiots to the emergency room, you know." Eh? The villains and their hostage blanched. The trio of villains shared uncertain looks with each other before they glared back at him. Horsepower and Thousand Eyes stepped back, the latter catching bags of stolen goods that their leader dropped into his non-existent hands. The 4-armed villain stormed forward, both sets of arms cracking their knuckles. "DCH, you talk a lot of smack for some no-named hero." Steel Bulwark sneered down at the youth. A blonde brow arched up at his words, but Bulwark paid it no mind. His left hand's cocked back. "I'll turn you into paste, you wanna." The onlooking civilian screamed and cried out as the massive fists fell like a pair of rockets. As this happened, the youth's blue eyes turned bright gold and his body started to lightly glow. Granted, it wasn't very noticeable in the early morning light. The strikes hit their marks, but the target hardly flinched. "Wanna? No named. Man, I knew I should have started patrolling out here a few weeks ago, but I was focused on helping rebuild Wakanai." The young hero's golden eyes stared into the shocked Steel Bulwarks. His right hand lifted up and grabbed Bulwark's lower left hand, the 4-armed villain immediately cried out as it was crushed in his grip. Golden eyes gleamed and his grin returned before he pointed at himself with his thumb. "Let me introduce myself, I'm the insurmountable hero, Solar Strike." "A Solar Strike?" Steel Bulwark's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets. Around them, the few civilians that were present started making commentary. "Solar Strike? Aw, no way. So, cool. He's in the nation's top 20. He's the hero that stopped the Cult of Pain. Didn't his fight with the leader also destroy most of Wakanai in the process? So? Endeavor burned down a building once while pursuing Swarmer. Not to mention All Might's most recent fight with that sludge monster changed the weather and caused an F2 tornado in the city." "Wait, All Might did what?" Solar Strike turned his head with wide eyes towards the chattering civilians. Steel Bulwark saw his opportunity to break free and lashed out with his right fists. The blows, like the ones before, were pointless. Solar Strike looked back at him from the corner of his eye. "Oh, right, I almost forgot about you. I can look that up later, I guess. First things first." He almost forgot about him. Horsepower and Thousand Eyes thought, horrified as they saw their muscle and leader get manhandled. "How? He's still crushing his hand. GHK. You smug bastard, I'll kill." "Oh, please don't embarrass yourself by finishing that cliché." Solar Strike sighed. He released Bulwark's broken left hand and grabbed the man's shirt with both hands before he could get away. With nary a sound or sign of effort, Steel Bulwark was hefted up over the young hero's head, much to the shock of all villains and the awe of the civilians and hostage. He calmly walked over towards the nearest street garbage can and getting a sense of what he was planning, Bulwark started struggling. "No. No. Don't you dare. Relax, I'm just doing my duty as any good citizen would." Solar Strike grinned and jumped up into the sky. His arms strained as he reared back. Then, with a small grunt, he launched the villain toward the garbage can. By taking out the trash. And he called Bulwark cliché. Horsepower and Thousand Eyes thought, sweat dropping as the crowd ate up the cheesy line that accompanied their muscles' impact with the can. The trash exploded up like a fountain and covered the groaning villain, who was now embedded rear first into the ground, his body bent at what had to be an uncomfortable angle. "Heh. Taking out the trash, funny even if a bit overused." The hostage snorted. She gagged audibly when Horsepower tightened his arm around her neck again. She clawed at the grip and kicked her legs. "Ack, get off of me already, creep." "Oh, I'll get off, alright." All over your fa. Horsepower's words were interrupted when a fist was suddenly buried into his equine skull of a head. The blow was sudden, which caused him to release his hostage, and hard enough to launch him back into the very storefront he and his companions had just robbed. A muffled boom echoed from the back of the store, followed by a faint "oh." The bag of goods he'd been holding were whipped into the store and the villain was struck dead on, in the head. The dual blunt strikes to the noggin knocked him unconscious. I didn't even see him move. Thousand Eyes trembled and took shaky steps away as the onlookers spoke up. So fast. I blinked and I missed it. Whoa. Alright, hostage rescued. Unharmed and unmolested, bonus. Solar Strike lowered his outstretched fist and glanced over the stunned student. He put a hand on her shoulder, stirring her from her stupor. Their eyes met and the girl's face started to darken with a blush when the hero smiled at her. If Thousand Eyes weren't a villain, he'd be more amused by the sight of it. Like many of the morning crowd was. Outgoing kid, Solar Strike nodded in the direction of the esteemed high school that was just out of sight. You don't want to be late for class, do ya? Alright. Thanks. The moss-haired girl nodded before she sprinted away. Solar Strike crossed his arms and watched her disappear into the crowd that parted for her before he scratched his cheek. Weird how her face flushed, hope she's not sick. Talk about a bummer way to start a day. The hero mused with a laugh at his dumb rhyme. Is he an idiot? Thousand Eyes and members of the crowd thawed in disbelief. The villain went ramrod straight when he saw Solar Strike look his way. Don't think I forgot about you, Mr. Origami. The glowing hero turned to face him and crossed his arms. Are you going to join your pals in the bruised loser category or do you have some kind of brain? Thousand Eyes dropped the armful of bags he was holding and threw his arms up. I won't be taken in by you, hero. Suffer the wrath of 1,000 cursed paper cuts. Thousand Eyes' arms dropped and sheets of paper fired off of his hands like bullets from a gun. The Solar Strike allowed the paper to fly into him, each slip of super sharp paper went up in smoke on collision with his body. The hero took several steps forward and Thousand Eyes stepped back with each advance. The hero grinned and cracked his knuckles. I'd be lying if I said that hurt, but I can't risk you targeting anyone else with that attack. Oh yeah, I could do that. I should do that. Why aren't I doing that? Thousand Eyes wondered. Just before he could act on such a thought, Solar Strike was within arm's reach. He grabbed the paper man's head with both hands and pulled him down to look him square in the eye. Bear with me, my technique's a little rusty. I surrender. Glad to hear it, Solar Strike said, smiling once more, but he pulled back and dished out a punch to the gut that made the paper-like villain fold over in pain. But I need to make sure you won't run away. Thousand Eyes' eyes widened and he let out a whimper when the hero's golden eyes gained a mischievous glint. Die. An explosion sounded before a modified ball rocketed off into the sky. Izuku Midoriya swallowed as he stood amongst his new peers, facing down the cause of the explosion that was smirking at them. Izuku broke the stare first and looked down at his feet. Hakken is as impressive as ever. TCH. Kitsuki Bakugo scoffed and glanced at their teacher, Shimata. The exhausted man stared down at his phone, face as impassive and gloomy as it was when he introduced himself, and Bakugo's temper got the best of him. Hey. You gonna give me a number sometime today? I would, Aizawa-sensei said flatly before he held his phone out. The numbers were rapidly decreasing. If it didn't look like the measurement was decreasing. What the crap? Bakugo's confusion swiftly gave way to anger, but his outburst was cut off by a loud voice from above. Hey. That could have really hurt somebody, you know. The words made all students look up towards the sun, some squinting as they tried to make out the figure that approached them. Great. Aizawa-sensei sighed and pocketed his phone. He glared up at the descending hero and caught the ball that was tossed his way. You're late. Sorry, I had to help an old lady buy some groceries and then there was a hostage situation outside of Starodollar. After the police showed up, I had to get away from the press and well, it all sort of spiraled into a big mess. The glowing hero chuckled sheepishly as he scratched his head. His glow dimmed down once his feet touched the ground and revealed his garish attire to the class, who had mixed reactions. Whoa, another cutie on the scene. He looks young, Kiro. Who is this guy? Never seen him before. Like the total opposite of sensei. Was he flying? Wait, glowing like the sun, orange jacket and a light-hearted personality. Izuku blinked and gasped loudly enough to gain his classmates' attention. He pointed at the hero and started trembling. It's the rookie hero, Solar Strike. He stopped the cult of pain after their leader destroyed Wakanai. What? He's a pro hero. The rest of the class cried out in shock. Yo, glad somebody's heard of me. The blonde youth grinned at the students, put his left hand into his jacket's pocket and lifted the other hand in greeting. The name's Naruto Uzumaki and I'm the hero course's teacher's aide, nice to meet you all. Naruto Uzumaki, also known as the insurmountable hero, Solar Strike. His quirk. Solar Will. Just by soaking up some sunlight, this guy will brighten up any event he attends. Quirky, aren't they? Stop smiling like an idiot, Uzumaki. Aizawa grunted as he tossed the ball back to the grinning blonde. Naruto yelped and floundered to catch the ball tossed his way before he managed to get both hands around it. He held it in one hand and scratched the back of his head. Ah, lighten up, Aizawa. I'm just introducing myself to the students. Naruto grinned only to shrink back under the glower and presence that fell over him. Sorry, I meant lighten up, Aizawa-sensei. Better. Aizawa sighed and crossed his arms. Now give the ball back to Bakugo so he can throw it again. Bro, oh. I remember hearing about this from Junko-senpai. Huh, weird being on this side of it. Naruto muttered to himself before he looked at the class. Then he looked back at Aizawa sheepishly. Which one is Bakugo? He tried to ignore the way the class stared at him owlishly. Dang it, all of his cool factor just went right out the window. And he'd worked so hard to make an awesome entrance. It's the hothead currently trying not to blow his top behind you. Aizawa deadpanned, pointing at the red-eyed blonde in question. Oh. Sorry about that, kid. Here. Naruto turned to face the boy in question. He held the ball out, closed his eyes and grinned. Just do what you did before, but maybe aim a little higher. Your last throw caught me by surprise, I thought I was under attack. Not my fault that you're a damn blind idiot. The boy, Bakugo, sneered and reached to grab the ball. Naruto's smile strained. He could take the criticism from his seniors and friends, but this brat. That sort of casual disrespect made his blood boil. Hence, he kept a tight grip on the ball. Bakugo tugged at the ball and glared at him. Hey, what gives, asshole? Gimme the damn ball before I kill you. The blatant threat was annoying, and his choice of words was concerning, but it was the disrespectful attitude that did more in rubbing the older blonde the wrong way. It reminded him of another cocksure idiot he knew, a guy that had shown the same attitude until reality came in and kicked him in the same face he saw in the mirror every day. Against his better judgment, the hero let his own irritation and malice leak out. The boy's eyes went wide and he stopped pulling on the ball. Naruto knew that his own quirk was starting to react to his emotions as steam rose up from his hand, but he couldn't help himself. I'll tell you this once, kid. If you're claiming you're going to kill me, Naruto's smile fell, and he opened his blazing crimson eyes to glare down at the now unnerved Bakugo's red. You better back it up with the same damn real intent behind it. Ever since his quirk emerged, Katsuki had been certain he'd be the strongest and the best hero in the world, no question. He could make explosions in his hands. Sure, it came from his sweat, and yeah, too much buildup could destroy his forearms, but nevertheless, he could make explosions. No one, not even All Might, had an awesome quirk that could compare to that. So, for most of his life, Katsuki was certain of his own superiority. As more and more of his classmates' quirks fell short of his own, this belief solidified. He would be the best, the strongest, and the richest hero of all time. No one, not that teacher or this happy glowing idiot, was gonna stop him from reaching his goal. Not them, not any of these other extras, and especially not that damn loser nerd Deku. Given all that confidence that toed the line of arrogance, he found himself faltering when he tried to grab the ball from the other boy's hand. Keyword. Tried. Hey, what gives, asshole? Katsuki scowled at the ball as he tried to pry it free. He saw the hand holding it tighten around the orb. His annoyance blasted into anger. Gimme the damn ball before I kill you. He spoke before his eyes rose, and when they did, air rushed from his gut. Why? I'll tell you this once, kid. Why? If you're claiming you're going to kill me. Why? Blazing crimson eyes peered down at him as the stupid smile on the older extra's face fell, and a red giant supernova appeared behind him. Why? Katsuki swallowed as words failed to form. You better back it up with the same damn real intent behind it. Why am I scared of this absolute nobody? What the hell? Katsuki took an unnerved step back from the taller blonde, the words tumbled from his mouth unbidden. His whole body had broken out in a thick sweat. His eyes went wide, and his pupils shrank as an overwhelming pressure engulfed him. So, you're all talk then? Figured as much. As suddenly as it started, the pressure and presence stopped. This guy, this rookie hero, dropped his glowing red glare, his eyes turned into calm ocean blues, and he regained his stupid smile again. You're trying to be a hero, right? So it goes without saying that killing people shouldn't be your objective. Lighten up, Bakugo. The ball was tossed to him and Katsuki caught it. He looked down at the ball and then back up at the older blonde. The older guy's eyebrow arched up. Pretty sure that now's the part where you go back to your circle and throw the ball. Aye, right. Katsuki turned and walked back toward the circle. He stared down at the ball in his hand and took note of the warped handprint ingrained in the bottom, the indent of fingers that lined the sides. He glanced back at the rookie hero. What did Deku call him? Sonar swipe. The hell kind of name is no, focus. Time to show these extras just who the hell I am. Gritting his teeth, Katsuki glared up at the sky and reared his arm back once more. If you're claiming you're going to kill me, you better back it up with the same damn real intent behind it. Biting back the word, the fear, the uncertainty, Katsuki's eyes narrowed. His arm strained, his shoulder rolled, and his palm, caked in sweat, ignited with a large blast. Rather than demand the inanimate object's demise, Kitsuki vented his frustration with himself for succumbing to the rookie hero's presence. Damn it. The ball flew, but the feeling remained. If you're claiming you're going to kill me, you better back it up with the same damn real intent behind it. His hands balled into fists and he grit his teeth. Red eyes snapped to the pro hero that was watching his handiwork. Who the hell does he think he is? Whoa, look at it go. So far, that's gotta be at least a kilometer, right? As the class chattered amongst themselves, Naruto whistled and covered his eyes with his hand as he watched the ball shoot off into the distance. Those things sure are durable. Whatever you did to get in his head really pushed him to show his best. Aizawa muttered. He turned to the awed and now excited class, all gushing over how to use their quirks. A sharp hey. Got them to sober up as he displayed the screen. Wow, 702.8 meters. I never breached 50 before. I wonder how far mine will go with my quirk. Aw, yeah, I'm so pumped for this. Quiet as Aizawa growled as they started to get riled up again. He pocketed his phone and pointed at a screen to the left. How long has that been there? The vocal ones of the class cried. Relax, the automatons just wheeled it out. Naruto chuckled as he stepped up to stand beside the teacher. He slipped his hands back into his pockets. A chart appeared on the wheeled-out display and now showed the names of the class, along with 7 boxes along each name, with 702.8 meters next to Bakugo's assessment. If I remember what Senpai said correctly, this will be a scored apprehension test of your respective quirk. Right, Aizawa-sensei. That's right, Uzumaki, but there's a twist. Aizawa leaned forward. The one student with the lowest score will be expelled. The HHHHH. The students gaped, dumbfounded. Wow, for real? Naruto gawped. He cupped his chin and looked up. Wow, sounds a lot easier than what I heard. I thought that if there were any unsatisfactory performances you saw, you'd expel the whole class. That happened to Junko-senpai, anyway. Oh, yeah, that was a few years ago. Aizawa tilted his head and then crossed his arms. Good point, Uzumaki. Very well, if any of you fail to impress me, I'll just expel you myself. Ah, that's way worse. Not cool. Not cool. Why does he have to be so stupid? Calm down, everyone. There's no way the faculty would actually allow such events to take place. The one that wore a pair of glasses spoke up. He waved his arms around robotically and started to ask Aizawa more questions. Naruto tilted his head as he tried to place the familiar face. Stiff, rule-abiding, and robotic mannerisms. Could he be related to Gundam Guy? No, maybe Saboriya. The Borgi bunch, maybe, but I'm pretty sure they were wiped out in the industrialized Russian Association's assault on Japan back in 03, but who knows. Ida, shut up before I kick you out right now. Aizawa finally quieted the prattling boy. Oh, he's Ida-sen's brother. Man, talk about different personalities, Naruto mused. He'd interned with Ingenium in his second year and learned a lot about managing and being the face of a hero agency. From what he observed, the older Ida brother was a bit more relaxed. Heck, for all I know it could be the stress of being Ida's younger sibling that made this kid so uptight, Naruto thought with a rub of his chin. He shrugged the thought off and grinned reassuringly at the flustered and scared students. Relax kids, you just gotta impress him, right? Don't worry about the numbers, just do your best. Naruto flashed them a grin and a thumbs up. What's the worst that could happen? We'd get expelled. The vocal one shouted at him. Naruto scratched his cheek and chuckled. Well, okay, but it's not like it'll be forever. Senpai got called back to school a few weeks after she was expelled. Don't tell them that. Aizawa growled. Whoops, too late. Great. Aizawa scowled. He faced the class again. Ignore the teacher's aide. For now, you're my class, I'm your teacher, but whether that remains to be the case at the end of the day depends on how well you do. Got it? A series of uncertain mutters reached him before a yell broke through. I don't give a damn what you think of me, old man. The annoying blonde one named Bakugo snapped. I'm the best in this whole goddamn class, and I'll prove it any way I need to. And if any of you extras get in my way, I'll kill you. Abrasive, loud, and mildly annoying, but Naruto grinned all the same as he saw the effect the words had on the other students. That declaration lit the fire of competition among the rest of the class. Looks like his impromptu standoff with the little hotshot panned out for the better. That's so? Very well. Aizawa huffed. Let's put your quirk where your mouth is. These kids are impressive. Naruto mused as he watched a boy with tape dispensers on his elbows pull himself rapidly from one side to the next in the side jumps. He made a note on the clipboard Aizawa shoved into his chest as he left to get a quick nap in while the teens finished up this part of the exam. This had to be done one at a time to get accurate notes in. Not as fast as Asui or that Mineta kid, but still. Though, I have to wonder what the drawback for using so much tape is. His body has to create it somehow. I'm sure if you asked he'd tell you. Naruto jumped, not expecting to have someone listening to him, let alone speak up. He saw the son of Endeavor standing beside him, eyes glued on his classmate. "Oh, hey, you're Todoroki, right? Endeavor's son?" Naruto asked. The boy stiffened before he gave a quick nod. His eyes narrowed in thought before he relaxed. If Endeavor's stunning personality was just as approachable at home as it was on the street, Naruto felt bad for the kid. "Yes." Todoroki's jaw flexed. "He is my father." "Yep. Just as much of an ass at home as he is everywhere else." Naruto thought before he responded. "I'd guess that's how you got in here, huh?" "Partially, yes." "I see." Naruto muttered. Clipped responses told him the kid really didn't want to talk about his family life. Best to move on to the next student anyway. "Sorry if I touched a nerve, Todoroki. Just confirming your identity, you know." "It's fine. You didn't mean to offend, Senpai." Naruto corrected him mid-word. He grinned at the confused look sent his way. "Technically speaking, I'm not a full-fledged teacher yet. Still just an aide. Think of me as the big brother you never had, eh? I have 2 older siblings." "I didn't stutter." Naruto chuckled when the boy's head tilted. "Careful there, kid. Send that look the wrong way and you'll find yourself swarmed by the ladies." "Ladies swarm? Like bees?" Todoroki cupped his chin and stared off at space, deep in thought. "And that's concerning for a whole plethora of reasons." Naruto thought, a large sweat drop forming on the back of his head. Deciding he'd leave the young teenager to his thoughts, he went to speak to the tape boy once the animatronic sounded a buzzer. "Good talk, Todoroki." "Excuse me." "Hey, Zero, right. Great job, bud. Get some water and take a seat. Next up is great, he didn't alphabetize this. Guess that makes it fair I think Ashido." "Ashido Mina. You're pink." "Peppers peppers, you better believe it." Ashido grinned up at him after she popped into his personal space. She interlaced her hands behind her and fluttered her lashes at him while grinning broadly. "So, sensei, you want to watch me work up a sweat, huh?" "Senpai." Naruto corrected her with a sigh while trying to avoid looking down at her unintentionally provocative pose. He was not going to be labeled a pervert by this freshman class. At least not again. "And yes, Ashido, it's your turn for side steps. 45 seconds. "Okay, senpai keep a close eye on me, yeah." Ashido winked at him and skipped up to the station. Must have something in her eye. Does her mutation leave her eyes open for damage? We might have to make a note of that for medical reasons, he thought, before he gaped from the unintentional show she gave him as she started stretching. Quickly, Naruto looked up just as she bent over to touch her toes. Can someone check on Mineta?" Naruto pointed at the short boy, who had just spurted out a lot of blood into the air in an arch. Ida volunteered to check on him, and Naruto looked down to gauge the situation before he deemed it a harmless, if surprising, amount of perversion. His godfather would be impressed by the boy. That much blood loss can't be healthy alright, enough stretching Ashido. "Go." "You got it, senpai." Silvery fluid was spread across the measuring lines, and the girl skated from one side to the other. Given how she treated most of the other mobility-based tests, Naruto knew that he shouldn't be so surprised. All that activity must be doing wonders for her stamina. Naruto mused, jotting more notes down for Izawa. Not to mention her figure is bad Naruto. No perving on students, I can't believe I just thought that. As if on cue, memory of his godfather's lechery reared its head. Filler figure, exotic looks, and a flirty persona. This girl's gonna be a total knockout when she finishes growing up. Quick boy, you should tap that while it's available. Naruto snorted at the assessment his imaginary Jiraiya made, even if he agreed, but the second statement was brushed aside as a bad joke. Even if the age of consent weren't what it was, and their own age difference being small in comparison to some other questionable ones that were out there, he wouldn't get involved with her like that for 2 reasons. For one thing, he'd just met this girl. Today. In fact, they'd just finished their first conversation, like, ever. He needed a genuine connection for it to go anywhere, but even then, there was reason too. He was faculty. Faculty-student relations were a global taboo despite being one of the highest search terms on the internet for sources of self-pleasure. How did Naruto know this? Well, that would be thanks to Jiraiya and his endless, needless and useless lessons on the perverted path of peace. Anyway, scandals like that were the last thing Naruto wanted to be part of. He had enough heat as it was from the press's solar strike. He didn't have any desire to add on to that. Not to mention the degenerates on hero shippers apparently the OTP, by law of the internet, was putting him with Hawks. Hawks. Naruto could fathom a lot of things, but being with Hawks. Romantically? No. Just no. Besides, if the rumors were right, Hawks had a thing for older guys. Alright, time. Good hustle, Ashido. He wrote down the time and looked at his clipboard. Next, Sato. Rikito Sato. Did I say that right? Rakido, senpai. Right, sorry. I'll have it down soon. So, how much sugar do you need? Like what's your threshold? Every event. Izuku Midoriya stared owlishly at the displayed results. He was at the bottom for every one. Every single one. At least Uzumaki-sensei senpai, Midoriya. I'm not a teacher yet, call me senpai. Uzumaki-senpai gave him supportive advice after each performance, but he saw the uncertainty in his eyes. The concern for him was endearing, but it only made his nerves become more frayed as time went on. Thankfully, there was still one event left, the very thing that Kaken had started with. It was his last shot to impress Aizawa-sensei. Did all the training I do mean so little? I got in. I made it through the entrance exam, and is this how it's going to end? Bakugo, you went to school with him. Does he do this often? All the goddamn time. I'm going to get kicked out. I'm going to let All Might down. That is gravely concerning. If he cracks this soon, he's definitely out. Yesh. Mineta isn't losing this time. I have no choice, I have to ow. Izuku yelped, holding his head after it was bonked of all things. A heavy hand fell on his head and he looked up to see Uzumaki-senpai smirking down at him, his clipboard the weapon of assailment that struck him. Izuku was sure of it tucked under his arm. Midoriya, my guy, my dude. Do me a solid. Take a breath and lighten up. Uzumaki-senpai ordered him, and the green-haired youth took in a deep breath. Izuku's lungs started to burn before senpai laughed. Exhale, you goof. It's just a ball throw. You've got a strength augment quirk, right? That's cake. You got this. He doesn't have a damn quirk. Kaken shouted, always so supportive and kind enough to remind him where he stood. And that's a demerit for name-calling faculty. Nice job, kid. Senpai snorted as he clicked his pen on his clipboard. He shouldn't worry about it. For all he knows, he's out. Aizawa-sensei noted. Oh, good point. Oi, Sploder. Apparently you aren't making it in. The hell did you say? I'll kill. Kaken's words caught in his throat as a powerful pressure started to make itself known. Izuku swallowed and looked for the source before looking at senpai and finding a cold smile on his face. His now red eyes were locked with Bakugo's. When senpai looked like that, one might almost think they were related. You want to finish that sentence, kid? Uzumaki-senpai asked. You really want to finish that sentence? Pretty sure we did this song and dance before. Izuku had no idea that Kaken's wrath could get him in trouble. With school staff of all things. He watched Kaken swallow and back up. Uzumaki-senpai flared his nostrils and the pressure was gone. Uzumaki, knock it off. Bakugo, back up. Midoriya, throw the damn ball so I can get back to my nap. Ah. Why yes, sensei. Izuku gulped as Uzumaki-senpai walked back over to the class. The green-haired boy looked down at the ball in his hand. This is it. My last shot. My arm will be broken again. I'm not. He got into position and reached deep inside for one for all. It was his last chance. He had to do this. He had to. His arm reared back, the energy spread along his arm and… Smash. The ball flew about 3 feet. Izuku stared at his thrown ball, then at his arm. One for all didn't work. I'm just going to ask, did you think that was smart? Aizawa-sensei drawled, his eyes glowing red and his hair floating up. Last time you did that, you broke 3 limbs. What good is a hero that can only be of use once? What? Uzumaki-senpai asked, jaw agape. That's information I need to know before I encourage someone to use their quirk, Eraserhead. Eraser-o. The underground hero, Eraserhead. That makes sense. Izuku flushed with shame after he realized who his teacher was. He wanted to curl into a ball and die now. The bell rang. School was done. For the day. Ugh, tomorrow was going to come too soon. And that would be the end of the day for you. Congrats, you're all officially student heroes in training. Aizawa faintly praised. His new class cheered and Uzumaki grinned at the lot of them. Couldn't have that now. Who knows what happens tomorrow, though? He gave them his creepiest and sadistic smile. The teenager's joy evaporated until his new aide spoke up. Pretty sure it's basic high school education in the first quarter of the day, followed by their first lesson with you-know-who. If only he was allowed to throw things at colleagues. Sharp things, preferably. Aizawa glared at the chatty TA, who wisely closed his mouth with a click and started investigating his notes. The exhausted teacher looked back at his class and sighed. He reached into his desk and pulled out a stack of note cards. Before you all leave, I want to give you something. A little preview, let's say, of what can await you if you continue down this path, he said, handing the stack of cards to Aoyama. Take one and pass it down. Wait, this wasn't in your lesson plan. Uzumaki frowned in confusion when he peered over Aoyama's shoulder to look at the card he had given the younger man. It came to me during my nap mid-assessment. Aizawa muttered before he glared at the two troublemakers that made him use his power twice in the same hour. He then looked over the class as a whole once more. What you have now is a link to a very unabridged video that I've made private and can be unlocked with the code written beneath that. The video in question will be broadcast to the public next week in a very edited form. I don't think seeing the abridged version will do you any good, as the events removed will likely highlight the dangers you will face. Sensei. Ida shot up, his hand raised. Aizawa nodded at him. Are we to take notes on this video and write a paper in regards to it? Initially, no. But now that you've brought it up, go for it. Hey, can I get a link? Uzumaki asked. No. Aizawa said, making the boy squawk before he looked at the class. Anyone that shares the video or link with Uzumaki automatically fails this assignment. I want one page on what your reaction is. Size 12, New Times Roman. No double spacing. Oog. A third of his class audibly groaned. Well, now he knows who he should call out in class tomorrow. Perfect. Alright, that's all for today. Dismissed. Stupid Deku. Hiding his quirk. Kitsuki thought with a snarl as he walked up to his front door. Thinking he's so clever. Laughing at me behind my back. I'll kill that rat-faced bastard. Hag. I'm home. He called into the house as he kicked his shoes off and slunk off towards his room. He had homework on day one, not unexpected, but still something that irked him fierce. Welcome home, Kitsuki. His father's gentle voice was overshadowed by the loud roar that came from his birther. What did you call me, you ungrateful little brat? You heard me. He snapped back, slamming his bedroom door closed and flopped onto his bed. The day's events ran through his head. Deku was in his class. Deku was talking to girls. Annoying pricks getting on his nerves. Kitsuki percolated for a few moments before he rolled over and grabbed his laptop. With a growl, he popped it open and pulled the card his lazy-ass sensei gave him out of his pocket. Like hell he was going to fail his first assignment, he was going to murder the crap out of it. Stupid lower cases, whose dumbest idea was this long-ass link? What are you looking at in there? His mother called through the door. Homework. Kitsuki snapped before growling when he realized he lost his place in the infinite link. Finally, he finished entering the link and scowled. The screen went dark and a code box popped up. After he entered the code exploding kittens haha, so damn funny. Bastard. All that happened was the screen shifted to a buffering video on HeroTube. Seriously? Just give him the video name for it, stupid lazy ass sensei. Umbus adults don't know anything. Kitsuki stared at the title of the video. New hero Solar Strike kills Cult of Pain. HQ, uncut. Goddamn hypocrites and liars everywhere I look. Kitsuki growled, his teeth grinding as he aggressively clicked on the play button. The buffering ended and he watched. Within seconds, he was enraptured as an interview happened between a visibly shaken news team. Apparently the footage that was going to be played was captured by a HE40 news team, who were notable for their third perspective footage that caught impossible shots. He didn't know a city could be flattened like that. He didn't know people could be killed like that. He didn't know heroes could be ended like it took little effort. No, wait. He did know that. Weak heroes died all the damn time. No names and has-beens that he didn't care about. But some of these heroes could toss buildings. Summon lightning. Break the sound barrier. Those were powerful quirks, the kind that Kitsuki expected of real heroes. These were the type of heroes he wanted to see at the top of the charts. The type of heroes he would surpass when he took All Might's place. Still, they died in droves. The video cut to an interview with the hostage holder himself, the cult leader. Pain. Pain will make us all equal. Almighty push. Damn, that was a chilling line. The villain looked like a walking pale pincushion. Kitsuki remembered the scare his father had over it, the way he'd aggressively follow the villain's story in the paper or on the news. Pain. An unoriginal villain name, kind of lame, but the power he had. Some kind of gravity power. Like that round-faced girl Deku spoke with. But, it was actually useful or deadly it seemed. Damn. Kitsuki bit his thumb. His throat felt tight as, for a brief moment, he imagined his parents in the city that Pain laid waste to. Where the hell was All Might? Just as Pain turned toward his captive news team and lifted the hand that had the figurative blood of millions on it, someone intervened. Sunspot impact. A meteor of radiant light struck down like the wrath of God and sent Pain flying. The dust settled and Kitsuki saw the same chilling red eyes that quieted his anger most of the day pierce through it. The smoke cleared, his new toss stood there in his hero costume, but had a larger red jacket over his orange one. His hands were balled into tight fists and his teeth were bared at the villain. Madman. Ah, Solar Strike, wasn't it? You're too late. The villain said as he stood up, a pulse of power cleaned the dust off of his form. He flicked his head to the side and his followers, the cultists that had the same orange hair and piercings, surrounded the hero. And outnumbered. You're the one hiding behind corpses. Why don't you step onto the battlefield yourself, coward? I will once the dust settles. Damn, but the way the 6 cultists spoke at once was creepy. Wait a second, Katsuki rewound and rewatched the exchange. Hiding behind corpses, the hell does, are those guys dead? Well, hot damn, that made this cult a whole new sort of messed up. Good thing they were stopped. You're right. One will stand and the other will fall. Damn. Katsuki would never admit to being impressed by his stupid TA's delivery. Typical hero. Look around you. I erased the city. I have hurt you in a way no other person ever could. The villain's monologue was expected, they were notable for it. Katsuki couldn't wait until he could interrupt one with a blast to the face. Why the hell was Solar Strike sitting back and listening to this dribble? For what purpose? To sell product? To sell your flesh? Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Nagato. Solar Strike growled. Holy hell, Katsuki could never let anyone know how impressed he was. That was such a damn good retort. He leaned in. I will punish your arrogance, boy. You will see, once you truly know pain. Bring it. And they moved. Fists and feet flew, collisions shook the camera, and the wasteland blurred. Solar Strike held his own for a surprisingly long time, managing to dispatch with 2 of his opponents before the numbers game worked against him. He was caught by the largest of the cultists' corpses. Cultist corpses. Whatever, Solar Strike was stuck in a headlock. You see. Pain's favorite speaker, the face of the cult, used Solar Strike's gut as a punching bag. Pain is inevitable. Even now, my path of pre-talk keeps your quirk from empowering you. Draining you of its empowering source. He wants my power. He can have it. The camera somehow got a close-up view of Solar Strike's face that news team needed to demand a big-ass raise as his eyes blazed into a full red. Solar Strike's skin started to blister and burn away, but so too did the body of the cultist that held him. He can have it all. Solar flare. The camera was blinded by a massive flare of light. When it refocused, Solar Strike had his head down and was held by an ash-like replica of the cultist that was on him. Solar Strike's head lifted, his skin healed, and he ripped himself free, the corpse consequently burst into a cloud of dark smoke. You're still outnumbered 3-2. Supernova burst. The camera raced away, to the edge of the crater that the hero and villains fought in. The cloud of smoke that surrounded the 4 was burnt away by a giant red orb. The same massive red orb that Katsuki saw when he faced down his TA earlier that morning. The footage zoomed back in as the red smoke faded away. Pain, the leader, pulled himself out of rubble, his left side burnt and part of his cloak torn. His weird rippled eyes were wide as he stared down the hero that faced him. One-on-one, now. Solar Strike punched a fist into an open palm. Heat lines wafted off his glowing form. Golden eyes glared into pale purple. You scared yet? God damn it, that's cool. Katsuki groused. He would rather die than tell the guy that to his face. He'd have to watch this again to get better notes. This world will know pain. Oh, get a newly what in the actual fu? Katsuki gaped as the rocks around Pain started to rise up. He clapped his hands together and Solar Strike was engulfed by an ass ton of ground and dirt. Celestial birth, almighty moon. Did that asshole make a literal celestial body? Katsuki's jaw dropped as the camera panned back and proved, yes. He did. A large orb hovered a few miles off of the ground in the center of the crater. A literal second moon, holy crap. Then the new moon started to shake, parts of it cracked off as it slowly fell apart. That's impossible. Pain grit his teeth and thrust his hands forward, visibly straining to keep the form compact. Beams of light broke through, first 1, then 5, then 9 until the new moon shattered into pieces. Dying light. Red giant. A massive red sun eradicated the residual pieces. Within was a dark silhouette. Pain's eyes, still wide, were locked on it. Then, the sun was gone, and Solar Strike, his red coat gone and his orange jacket in tatters at the shoulders and wrists, was in his face. You killed Sensei, Nagato, and we need to talk about that. But first, a blue orb formed in the palm of the young pro-hero's hand. I'm putting Yahiko to rest. Blue dwarf. Rasengan. The orb was shoved into the body in Pain, Yahiko. Doubled over the attack. The camera pulled back to a 3/4 shot of Solar Strike standing over the unmoving cultist. As the video ended, his TA turned to glare at something off in the distance. I see you, uncle. He crouched down and then shot up, just like All Might would. The footage cut off. Katsuki laid back, his mind unironically blown. He had no idea that the gap was so huge. TCH, this was what lazy-ass Sensei was doing, huh? Showing him and the extras just how far the gulf between them and a real pro was. He opened a Word document and started typing, the video opening in a mini-screen and restarted. Screw one page, he was going to have 5. 3. Torchbearer. Naruto wasn't sure what to expect when he walked into the classroom for 1A, but it wasn't dead silence and owlish stares. Especially when not 2 seconds before he opened the door, their excited chatter could be heard well into the hall. Well, that was compounded with the conversations that poured out of Class 1B, who he'd yet to meet. When he asked at lunch the day before, Kansas-sensei revealed that he wanted to get a better understanding of his new student skills before presenting their predecessor to them as a goal to achieve. It was a little unfair. Naruto would have snorted at that stray thought if he wasn't too busy being confused by the awe that overcame 1A's faces. He arched an eyebrow. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, senpai. Most of them greeted him with a healthy dose of respect. Weird, even that Bakugo kid's lips had moved. Sure, he wasn't as loud as the rest in vocalizing a greeting, but his mouth moved all the same. What the hell was that homework assignment, Aizawa? So what video did you guys watch, ga? Naruto grabbed his cranium and glowered at Aizawa, who lowered his chopping arm as he walked past. Uncalled for, Aizawa-sensei, we're going to go over the homework anyway, aren't we? I should know what you had them watch. Yes. Please, we've got to talk about it. It was so manly. I have so many questions, senpai. It would do us well to ask him about it, Kiro. We will discuss the assignment, but not with you, Uzumaki. Aizawa deadpanned. Naruto hung his head and slumped his shoulders. Rude. He muttered while rubbing his head. He recomposed himself and crossed his arms. And no, he was not pouting. He'd grown out of that. Really. Why the heck not? Okay, maybe he was pouting a little bit. Because your opinion on it isn't needed yet. I want to gauge their reactions. Aizawa explained tiredly. He slumped against his podium and sighed. Take the first period and go help you know who prepare for his first class. Fine, fine. He said, turning to leave. He stopped and whipped around to point a finger at the man. I'll find out somehow, though. Don't underestimate me, you know. Trust me, that's the last thing I'm going to do. Aizawa muttered. He sighed and gave him a flat glare. Now leave. Grumbling about unfairness under his breath, Naruto did as he was told. He really should have thought about the position more before he took it, but at the same time, the alternative just didn't feel right. Working directly for the HPSC had more cons than boons when he thought about it. Some of their ideas to turn him into the next All Might, a flattering thought, if presumptuous, were kind of suspect. Then there was the suggestion he be assigned to co-op with Hawks. Shifting a prominent solo career into a hero team wasn't unheard of, but very rare in today's society. Still, Naruto had no desire to further fuel the minds of those weirdos online that paired him with freaking Hawks. Besides, there was still the upside to the job he had to consider. He'd finally get to speak one-on-one with All Might, the symbol of peace, himself. The thought of that alone was enough to lift Naruto's spirits, and his meandering exit turned into an excited sprint. Izuku fought back the disappointment he shared with his classmates over seeing Uzumaki-senpai leave. He wanted to know so badly how his senpai's quirk worked. The most he wrote in his quirk journal were mere hypotheses and speculation. He disliked quirk speculation. It was so unreliable. Now that settled, Aizawa-sensei went over and closed the door before he walked back to his sleeping bag. Let's get some introspection done. Anyone have any idea why I had you watch that video? Well, you said it was to prepare us, Kirishima pointed out before he scratched his head furiously. Gah. I can't get over how manly that video was. Heck yeah, Uzumaki-senpai was awesome. Zero threw in. Dude, people died. Jiro chided with a frown. Yeah, but still. That's the kind of thing we're all aiming for, isn't it? Kaminari asked, grinning like a fool. Jiro gave him a flat stare. You're aiming for mass murder. Pretty sure you're in the wrong school. What, no. Kaminari's grin faltered as Zero and Jiro laughed. If I may, sensei. Yayoi Rozu raised her hand. Aizawa-sensei nodded and she stood up, the others going quiet when she spoke. Well, I believe the purpose of the video was to show us the stakes that we put our lives at risk for. If heroes didn't exist, who's to say that Pain's atrocity would be limited to Wakanai? Izuku and many others shivered at the thought. That is part of the reason, but it was to also have you gain a deeper appreciation for your quirks. Aizawa-sensei said. He leaned against the wall and met each of their eyes. You can do great things with it or nightmarish deeds. You saw the duality of such a concept in that video. For as heroic as he was, Uzumaki's quirk did just as much damage as Pain's, and the only reason he could get away with that much collateral was because of the mass murder that Pain committed earlier. That raises the damn question, then, doesn't it? Kakin asked, surprising Izuku with his input being thrown out. His glare was, thankfully, locked on the teacher, but his words struck Izuku all the same. Where the hell was All Might? Oh, God, I didn't. I never even. How could we forget? That's a very good question, Kiro. All Might was out of the country at the time. The words overshadowed the murmurs and whispers of 1A. The underground hero's resigned shrug sold the next bit to the now understanding class. Doesn't matter how strong you are if you aren't there. Aizawa-sensei's words quieted the others and his certainty almost made Izuku believe him if he didn't know the truth. That All Might likely couldn't do anything if he wanted to. The realization made him choke on his breath. All Might probably used his time up. Izuku swallowed. He could only imagine how helpless his hero felt, forced to be on the sidelines. Seeing such destruction, such death. Izuku had to stop the video several times to give his mom a hug. After, when she asked, he had to explain why and begrudgingly shared the video with her. They had sobbed together so much that he had to rewrite his paper. And consider this, as Aizawa-sensei said. He leaned forward and leveled all of them with a heavy stare. Did any of you ever wonder how much some heroes actually have to hold back to still be considered heroes? Silence. Pure silence. I thought not. Aizawa-sensei leaned back. That's fine. Part of your time here will be teaching you to know when to hold back. Sensei. Uraraka raised her hand up. Did Wakanai was rebuilt, right? Was it contractors or? That's irrelevant. Aizawa-sensei shook his head. Izuku wondered why Uraraka was curious about that. Honestly, he was more concerned with. What about the people? Hagakure slammed her hands onto her desk. Her arms flailed as she elaborated. That maniac obliterated an entire city, but I looked, there weren't any death tolls posted. Ah, that's the part of the video they didn't get footage of. Aizawa-sensei rubbed his left eye. Interviews will be aired with the conservative clips that will be shared. The answer to your question will likely be found in that broadcast. What about Pain? Asui asked, raising her hand. Was he caught? The villain Pain was a facade, a character given form by a reanimated corpse. Aizawa-sensei explained. Izuku blanched, what kind of quirk could do that? Others had the same question and the boldness to ask, but outside of Ida and Yayoi Rozu, none had the tact or patience to be called on. Aizawa-sensei sighed at the class's exuberance and glared at them, his hair rising up as his eyes shone like rubies. Quiet. Thank you. As I said, Pain didn't technically exist, so there was no villain to apprehend for his crimes. That leads us into a bit of an advanced subject, but let's see if any of you can get the gist of it. Their lackluster teacher started jotting notes onto the blackboard behind him. When finished, there was a pyramid of lines connecting generic villain names. At the top was a question mark that Aizawa circled thrice. He stepped to the side and crossed his arms. What can anyone tell me about masterminds? Yagi Toshinori had seen a lot of heroes in his tenure as the symbol of peace. Many rose to fight the good fight, but many more fell at his hands. All for one, even thinking of his deceased nemesis, brought a scowl to his skeletal face. He shook the thought away. Still, he couldn't hold back the nail-biting sensation of meeting the stalwart Solar Strike. Would he be even-tempered, like his politician father? Or worse, was he a carbon copy of his gulp-tenacious yet heroic mother? Come on, Tashi-kun. I need another sparring partner. The rest of the class is in the infirmary. The crazy woman always managed to put their classmates there. Fear of her brash and never say no or else attitude aside, he mourned the late Uzumaki. She would have paved the way for many female heroes to look up to, no doubt. It was a sad case that the hero industry was both monopolized by men and sexualized women. Kushina would have ripped heads off if they tried that with her, and Minato would have fought the system from within, likely winning. It was times like this he wished he could drink. Remembering the past just made him too wistful. He coughed and groaned as he felt the remaining quarter of his respiratory system protest his existence. Apparently, reminiscing also made him die a little faster. Figures. A knock at the door had him panic and burst into his hero state. Enter, for I am here. All Might bellowed jovially, hiding his weakened state as he was wont to do. The door cracked open, and the symbol of peace had to bite his tongue to keep himself from inhaling too sharply. He'd seen the video that was passed around the pro-hero community, so he was familiar with the hero's appearance, but the young man that had walked in looked so much like his dear friends it hurt. Holy crap, you really are wearing a yellow pinstripe suit. I thought Nezu was yanking my chain. Young Uzumaki that he had been granted his mother's name was no surprise, the family name had history that surpassed quirks muttered in awe. All Might's smile strained at that. It was the only one he had that fit his body type. Why did people hate it so? Sure, it was fashionable 10 years ago, but still. Ah, young Uzumaki. All Might rose from his seat and walked around his desk to offer his mallet-sized hand to the youth. Pleasure to meet you, big fan of your work. Thanks. This is so surreal. The boy chuckled as he shook his hand. For a long minute. His smile, wide as All Might's own, but different all the same, turned downright vulpine. His eyes flashed yellow, and All Might grunted when the grip on his hand increased. Oh, God. Is that what my handshakes are like? I have erred most terribly. Wow. Quite the grip you have there. Yep. The vulpish grin remained in place. All Might felt sweat bead on his brow as the pressure increased. Was he doing this on purpose? You, gonna let go? Are you? Uzumaki arched a brow. You seriously have enough time for this? Ah. He knew. All Might deflated like the sad balloon he had become. Toshinori sighed in relief as the younger blonde released his hand and stopped filling the room with his quirks off-putting pressure. You really are your mother's child. Oh yeah, the old pervert did say mom and dad went to school with you. Uzumaki crossed his arms and tilted his head in thought. He shook himself from it and then bowed slightly. Sorry. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. Pleased to meet you, Yagi-san. Just Yagi is fine. I'm not big on honorifics. Toshinori waved the formality off. His time in America had really left its mark on him. Oh, sure thing, Yagi. You can just call me Naruto. The grin he got for the approval for lax conversation was not broad, but it was definitely brighter than the last smile he bore. That was a fast acceptance. Toshinori blinked, then chuckled. We've only just met and I can tell what kind of person you are. Your parents would be proud. I hope so. Uzumaki grinned at him. He interlaced his hands behind his head and looked around the office. Nice digs, more decorated than Izawa-sensei's. He's only got a mattress in the corner of the room. That doesn't surprise me. I know, right? I only got a locker. Well, once you get your degree and license, you too can get an office. Toshinori chuckled and went back to his desk. So, what brings you here? I thought you were going to help the hero course with the high school curriculum. Izawa-sensei kicked me out until later. Some group discussion he didn't want me in on. The youth flopped into the chair across from him. A near petulant pout on his face. His mother's pout. That's just uncanny. Toshinori thought. He arched his brow. So, you came to see me? Hanzo-sensei doesn't want me to meet his class yet. Something about a bond between teacher and students, Uzumaki muttered. He picked up an All Might bobblehead and flicked the upright hair, smirking in amusement as it let out a tinny "I am here." While nodding. Never pegged you for a narcissist. It's great stress relief. Flicking it over and over, Toshinori refused to admit it was his favorite piece of merchandise, as well as one of the first before his modern costume was displayed. Plus, it was built to be extra durable. Aha. Uzumaki gave him a skeptical look. Toshinori coughed, no blood thankfully, and interlaced his fingers on his desk. Anyway. You were kicked out by Izawa and Kansas told you no, so why not go patrol? I'm supposed to be on the DL, you know. Yes, the DL. You have no idea what that means, do you? Not a clue. Toshinori had no problem admitting he didn't know modern lingo. Not to colleagues anyway. Students, he would never admit it to. It means down low, to be kept quiet. Don't look it up, you'll just get confused. Uzumaki chuckled and waved his hand before he leaned back. The Hero Commission doesn't want me in the public eye until all their ducks are in a row for the Wakanai incident cover-up and Solar Strike special debut. Toshinori twisted inside, hands balled into tight fists. There shouldn't be anything to cover. My uncle killed 60,000 people in the blink of an eye. A few dozen heroes were killed face to face. It was documented initially to show the world what would happen to those who didn't conform to his twisted ideology. Uzumaki cut him off firmly. He closed his eyes. He was sick, he had a tumor in his brain that caused him to lash out and kill his best friend. His quirk's use only made it worse as he fell into a delusion. His last act of sanity was to give his own life to revive all the lives he took in his attack. Then he died a hero. No. He repented with a heroic act, but he wasn't a hero. Don't think that a moment of clarity makes up for all the havoc he wrought, Uzumaki said with a frown. He sat straight as Toshinori frowned at his rebuttal. Yagi, I respect the work you do and have done for the world, but this is a fight that doesn't need to be fought. The HPSC made it clear that they can't pin anything to him since he used a corpse as his proxy, which is the only reason I'm still as high profile as I am. The cover-up will be to hide the fact that so many people were revived when most of them don't even know they had even died. I wish that the truth could be shared, Toshinori said with a sigh. He was tired of lying. Of living a lie. I understand. I do too, but if that sort of quirk existed and if anyone found out about it. The scavengers would swoop in. People would ask questions. Toshinori grumbled. He rubbed his temple. I see why you're accepting the cover-up. For the greater good. Uzumaki looked away, brows furrowed. For peace. You sound upset. Toshinori pointed out. The boy opened his mouth, paused and then shook his head. Something's coming. I can feel it. Uzumaki clearly wasn't comfortable with his first non-choice of words, evident by how he fidgeted in his seat. He slumped forward and rubbed his face with his hands. Too much is lining up for it not to be. Your weakened state, a rise in villainous activity, my uncle's destruction of a city, and there's rumors of a serial killer stalking low-ranking heroes. I wouldn't think too much about it. Toshinori advised. He knew the young man in front of him was the true sort of hero, cut from the same cloth that young Midoriya came from, but his power wasn't enough to take the strain of being the pillar of society. He had to guide him as he would the next generation of heroes. Despite being heroes, we're still just human, and right now, we have a duty to the next generation to give them our knowledge and lead them to a better tomorrow. Fair, Uzumaki nodded. He sat back and let out a stressed puff of air before he gave Toshinori a small grin. What you got planned for your first class, All Might? Toshinori smiled back as he pulled out his lesson plan scrawled quickly on a notepad. The bell rang for the last period of the day, and one awaited with bated breath for their next superstar sensei, none more so than Izuku Midoriya. Their first period consisted of deep conversations on what they watched the day before with their seemingly bored but fully invested underground sensei. The period that followed was basic high school requirements, again taught by Aizawa sensei, before he tagged out midway with none other than Present Mick for English. Lunch was phenomenal, all of the students, even the surly and unapproachable Bakugo, agreed on that front. I am here. All Might announced as he strode into the room with his larger-than-life presence. Coming through the door like a normal person. It's really him. All Might's teaching us. He's in his Silver Age costume. And boy, don't we all regret our Silver Age costumes. Uzumaki-senpai chuckled as he followed in at a leisurely pace. He lifted his hand from his jacket and waved off the slight glower the symbol of peace gave him. Kidding, All Might. Just kidding. It's just a little jarring to see you back in those duds. Says the young hero who is still in his first costume iteration. All Might huffed. The younger blonde scratched the back of his head. Technically, this is the second. Even if all I did was ditch a cloak and fix my jacket. It totally works for you senpai. Hagakure sighed. Maybe she was tired. It was super hard for Izuku to tell. Kakin audibly gagged, which made the young Midoriya arch his brow. What was his problem? Did Auntie prank his meal again? She liked doing that in the second year of middle school. At least, that was Izuku's theory as to why Kakin's extras friends kept taking his bento toward the end of that year. At least his mother made large enough dinners to compensate for those lost meals. Is it or is it not tear resistant? Ashido asked with a smirk and raised hand. I forgot that's totally a thing. Uzumaki-senpai rubbed his chin. He shrugged and waved his hand dismissively. Whatever, nah. It's just a jacket I've got fond memories with. Settle down. While you can gush about us, we're here for you today. All Might declared as he pressed a button on a remote, making the wall open up with a number of suitcases labeled by number. Does your belt even have pouches? Where did you get that thing? PFFT, stupid senpai. Everyone knows that All Might's boots have subspace storage containers along the sides, courtesy of David's shield. Izuku wondered if so much commentary about their attire was a hint or something. No, it was left on the desk. Or that. It could have been his idea, too. Anyway, they say that clothes make the man, so let's see you all suit up and get ready to go plus ultra. You just can't help but want to die for the guy. Uzumaki-senpai snorted as he turned toward the door. Come on, Little League, we're hitting the locker rooms before we get to the field. Wait, are we playing baseball now? Just grab your stuff and follow us. Any more questions and I'll have you run laps. Uzumaki-senpai pointed at Ida. Except you'll sit out of activities. That feels like segregation. That feels like a detention slip. You are harsh but fair senpai. Thank you Speed Stiff. All Might, we're burning class time. Uzumaki-senpai said, giving All Might a pointed look. Izuku froze. Did he know? How did Uzumaki-senpai know? Ahem, yes. As young Uzumaki said. Let's go, class 1A. Plus ultra. All Might cheered as the class jumped out of their seats and ran for their belongings. Remind me to have a word with their costume designers. Naruto grumbled as he rubbed his temples once the class walked out. Several looked over the top, which was typically good, but others, particularly the girls, none of the girls in his class ever dressed like that. He was torn between being jealous of the boys in this class or being worried for the girls when they went out into the field. Hervey Sage, I blame you. I blame you for this. Naruto cursed the dead man and swore he heard his laugh echo back at him from the afterlife. Look at you all, powerful and fierce. All Might laughed. He froze while looking over the students, and Naruto thought it was because he spotted the Yaoi Rozu heiress, but followed his gaze to Midoriya. The simple green tracksuit was it was adorable. A little green bunny, innocent and demure, but when angered it packed a powerful punch. That thought reminded Naruto of another bunny-themed hero that had been bombing his social media as of late. He really needed to get someone to manage his social media before the HPSC assigned him a caretaker. Maybe Yamanaka was still open to working with him. Sai said she was having a rough time getting a decent job. And furthermore, hold on. Hagakure, right. Naruto crossed his arms as he saw the gloves and boots and nothing else. Yes, Juicy Senpai. Ignore it. For the love of God, ignore it. Naruto fought back the embarrassed flush he got from the blatant flirt from the younger girl. Tell me you have a suit made of your hair. That's a thing. So many words with the support department. Oh, so many words. Wait, Hagakure is naked. What a time to be alive. A little grape with legs crowed happily to the sky. Zip it, lech. Naruto snapped on a pervert prevention reflex. He closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. Sorry, Mineta, but seriously, keep it to yourself before I have to write you up. But all the boobs yark. Mineta suddenly choked as something stabbed into his neck. He spasmed before he flopped back. Not cool. Jiro, who was one of two that were dressed in a rather modern getup, crossed her arms as her earlobe retracted. She glanced at Naruto who groaned into his hand. Is that a problem? Verbal warning. Don't do it in my eyesight again outside of a spar. He sighed and rubbed his face. He was going to age 10 years in 1 week, he just knew it. No wonder Kakashi hated teaching him. He sighed. Hagakure, you and I are going to go to the support department. I don't want to hear any objections to donating a hair sample for cloning you new clothes. Hopefully they'll be done in a few days. But what about class? We'll be back in, at most, 15 minutes. Naruto sighed. He hated being an adult sometimes. He looked at All Might, who had a brow arched and his smile still on his face. You can handle the class for 15 minutes, right? Sure. It shouldn't be too difficult. All Might chuckled, waving his hand. Good on you for taking the initiative to help our student, Uzumaki. God knows someone has to before she runs into a thermal-eyed villain or civilian. Naruto sighed. Or if she gets hit by a splash of paint. Those are real. I thought that was just movie and cartoon stuff. Hagakure's hands flailed as she followed him to the doors. Yes. Yes they are. Trust me. I've seen it. It was never pretty. Did he have to take such a big chunk? Hagakure's gloves stroked over what he assumed was her hair. Which was probably several inches shorter on one side. Hopefully. Power Loader was a support tech hero, not a hairstylist, and he said as much. Still, Naruto sighed before he answered the fretting girl. Yes, how else will they clone your hair into a costume? I mean, I guess. Still, thanks for letting me hold your hand. No problem. Still, scissors scare you? Deathly. Have you seen what happens when you run with them? Naruto decided not to mention the times he had to do such a thing. His godfather had a very effective training regiment, but it was so out there. On the upside, if anyone ever came at him with a cheese wheel and a rubber duck, he would be ready for it. You mean it has nothing to do with the fact most people can't tell if they're going to cut your ear or your hair? Well, yeah, that too. But they're always so sharp. I chose this. I chose this life. Naruto mumbled, rubbing his brow as he escorted Hagakure back to ground beta. They walked back in as Yaoi Rozu finished up a summary of a match. Which is why Ida is the MVP of the round. At least, I think. Yaoi Rozu amended while everyone stared at her. Why is the building destroyed? Naruto asked as he looked at the monitor in concern. Who had the power to do that? Young Midoriya and young Bakugo's battle got a little too heated. All Might admitted. Where's Midoriya? Recovery girl. Why? For his injuries. Self-sustained, I'm guessing. Naruto asked, resigned to being the adult here as Hagakure skipped back over to her classmates, immediately engaging in a hushed conversation with Ishido. He was going to ignore it. Partially. Yes, young Bakugo did his fair share of damage in the fight. I did what needed to be done. Four Eyes is the one that dropped the ball against Round Face. Deku should've. Bakugo. Naruto glanced at the boy from the corner of his eyes in such a way that shut the loud mouth up. Their gaze held for a long second before the younger blonde scoffed and looked away. Naruto sighed and smiled at All Might. So, let's reset the sim and send the next team in, shall we? Yes. That's the spirit. All Might cheered. He turned back to the monitor. Then, next is. Itsuki couldn't believe it. All those quirks, they were so damn it. They were lame, but he was begrudgingly impressed. Electrification, sentient shadow, multi-arms, creation, invisibility, strength enhancement, hardened skin, elbow tape, frog, acid, naval laser, and even the freaking loser with a tail. The grape head and the mountain boy were exceptions, they just sucked. This hit was impossibly strong. Kitsuki was certain he could still beat it. With some thought on tactics. He couldn't overpower that. Yet. Then there was Deku. That damn nerd, it was Deku of all people who overpowered him in his first class. With a damn punch that didn't even connect. A part of him felt sick in his gut, but he shut it up with a snarl as a hate twisted in his heart. Itsuki clawed at the chest of his uniform as he walked out the gate. His ears were ringing as if he had damn tinnitus or something. A hand grabbed his shoulder and pulled him back. Kitsuki whirled around and snarled at whoever touched him, only to be met with those damn eyes. Easy there, hotshot. Uzumaki crossed his arms, his dumb grin back in place. I just wanted to talk. I've been trying to get your attention since you left the classroom. So you stalked me? I was never quite, you just ignored me. Rude, by the way. Whatever. Ah, lighten up, Baku brat. Uzumaki chuckled before he stuffed his hands in his jacket's pockets. Listen, I get it. At what? Kitsuki scowled at him. Uzumaki shrugged. You're a big fish. You're used to owning the pond. Then you found out there's an ocean out there. Kitsuki bristled. He was a damn shark in the ocean. He said as much, and Uzumaki laughed. TCH, asshole. Oh, what would you know? Your stupid quirk's the flashiest thing out there. Yeah, it's pretty sweet, isn't it? Uzumaki reached up to rub the underside of his nose, smirking all the while. And I thought a lot like you when I started going here. I'm the best there is at what I do, and damn anyone who thinks otherwise. I am the best at what I do. Then the glare came and Kitsuki instinctively went quiet. That right there. That's not confidence. That's arrogance. Uzumaki spat the word, as if disgusted with it. That kind of attitude gets people killed, but you want to be a hero, right? Oh, screw off, you preachy freak. I'm going to be the next #1 hero, and damn you if you stop smirking, you got in my head bastard. I'll Kai. Supernova. Kitsuki quieted. Uzumaki stared at him. He looked up and sighed. Look, I'm not a teacher. I get it, you don't have to respect me as one, but I've been where you are. I was a lot like you. It took a really bad screw up to make me change the way I do things. Kitsuki wasn't going to change who he was for anybody. He was fine as he was, he'd been awesome since day one, and 15 years hence the streak kept on going. So what if this loser thought he needed to be different? He didn't. He was fine, and said as much. Uzumaki didn't laugh this time. His eyes didn't change, and his quirk didn't flare. He just clapped Kitsuki's shoulder and started walking away. The silence said more than words ever would, and a chill went down Kitsuki's spine. He was tempted to ask Uzumaki what happened. Tempted, but had better control over himself. He didn't care about this pro's life story, and even if he did, there was that documentary that was going to come out later. With a dismissive scoff, Kitsuki adjusted his backpack and started to walk away again, thought cycling around the interaction he had with his weird-ass TA. Young Bakugo. Oh goddammit, at this rate he was going to miss his train. 4. Class 1B. So, it took a week for you to be comfortable enough to introduce me to the new guard, huh? Naruto asked, almost amused by the way his old sensei was acting like a shamed schoolboy. The first week he'd spent most of it with Class 1A, depending on the class. He'd been given leeway from Nezu to run early patrol after homeroom until lunch, where he would return and give aid to whatever hero was teaching in the afternoon. In essence, his afternoons were usually spent with Aizawa and Yagi. Mostly Yagi. It didn't need to be known that All Might, despite all his experience in the profession and in life, knew next to nothing about teaching, but now Naruto knew. He would never let the man live it down when he had to bail him out of a simple request for aid from Shoji in regards to improving use of his quirk in regards to a hostage situation. I had to get their measure. Sekijiro Kansas, who would always and forever be one of Naruto's favorite teachers, admitted while he rubbed the back of his head. The blood hero Vlad King tried not to meet the blonde's blue eyes as he scrutinized him. You know how important the first week is. So you said. Did I really have to deal with Aizawa and All Might the entire time you did that? Naruto refuted. Kansas-sensei crossed his arms. You could have gone to help Power Loader. Do you remember the last time I was in the support class? You were a student then. I'm technically still a student. These online courses Nezu is giving me for my license are killer, you know. Naruto groaned. He had so hoped he would be done with school once he got his hero license. Besides that, Power Loader hasn't forgiven me for supposedly swapping labels around on him in my first year. How do you know that? Kansas asked. He said it to my face the other day. Naruto deadpanned. He was lucky Hagakure was too busy stressing over the incoming haircut rather than learn about one of the least impressive pranks he was blamed for. It was such a basic prank that he refused to take the fall. Technically, it was still unsolved, but since it was relatively harmless, Nezu convinced Power Loader to drop the charges and let him off. The blonde crossed his arms. Just as I know you still haven't forgiven me for the great pantsing of second year, right? 3 of your classmates quit, claiming mental trauma. You need to lighten up, Kansas-sensei. Naruto shrugged off the affronted scowl. What? It wasn't your fault. Or my fault. They couldn't handle seeing your noodle, that's on them. Point. Kansas muttered. He cleared his throat as they rounded the corner toward the classroom. Well, what about ectoplasm? Think about what you just said and who you said it to. Naruto deadpanned. Naruto, for the last time, he's not a ghost. But we don't know that for sure. You've never seen him without his costume, you know. Nor have you. Exactly. Naruto snapped, throwing his arms up. He would die on this hill. Ghosts couldn't be punched, and sure ectoplasm might be a quirk user, but he was too comfortable swapping himself out with his clones for anyone to be certain. I'm not having this argument with you again. Kansas sighed into his hand and rubbed his temple. Okay, then, why not snipe? My quirk gives him glaring headaches. Present Mick. That's actually at Principal Nezu's request. Naruto winced. We get along too well, and I'm not that good with English paperwork. You should look into tutoring, a second language never hurt anyone. Kansas advised, making the younger man roll his eyes while he looked up and thought. Let's see Cementus. I've dealt with enough literature in my life, don't you think? Fair. Hound dog. I don't want to get in his way or interrupt any of his sessions. For the love of what about recovery girl? Outside of needing to. Pass. Naruto, you could learn vital medical. Disregarding the fact that my godmother is a rescue hero that works with 13's agency. My grandmother is the head surgeon of Tokyo Metro. She's the only one that scares me more than recovery girl. Do you have a rebuttal for every teacher in this school? I'm not sure. Have we gone over all of the other teachers yet? You're so lucky you happen to be my favorite student. Nah, just your biggest success. It's whatever. Naruto waved the praise off with a smirk as he reached for the classroom door. Kansas spoke up just as his hand hovered over the door handle. Wait. I thought of one more. The blood-manipulating hero crossed his arms. Why didn't you offer to go help Midnight? I don't have to answer that. Naruto averted his eyes with a faint blush before he grabbed the door and opened it for Kansas. He plastered a giant grin on his face. Let's just get to work, you know. Time's a wastin'. Kansas sighed and nodded. He gave his star student a pointed look before he straightened up and walked into the rowdy classroom. Another day at UA, part of Tokage Satsuna still couldn't believe she made it. Granted, she knew she was in after her recommendation evaluation test, but it was a little surreal all the same. Satsuna smirked as she observed her rowdy classmates from her seat. Awase and Kabara were bickering over something, and Tsunatori was getting a few quick tips on speaking Japanese from Kadai and Komori, while Tetsu and Tsuburaba added their own helpful contributions. Their chosen representative Kendo Itsuka would have probably intervened if not for, well. We should go over there and give them a show of our might. That Class 1B is the superior hero course to this school. Do not make me hurt you, Monoma, because I will. Now get to your seat and shut up. Kendo warned the arrogant blonde who had some sort of competitive grudge with Class 1A, despite not even meeting them yet. Oh sure, they'd seen one in the lunchroom, but other than that, no interaction. Seriously, dude, it's the second week, Satsuna thought with a puff of amusement as the copy quirk's vitriol became heated and the ginger-haired girl's patience wore out. You are picking the wrong fight. The week was all it had been, but Satsuna had her classmates' personalities down pat. If she was right, Kendo would deal with Monoma's disruption in 3-2-1. Aw. Sure enough, as soon as Monoma turned to drag one of their other classmates into their debate, Kendo hit him in the sweet spot on the back of his neck. He crumpled like a rag doll and was hefted up like he weighed nothing. That girl's crazy strong. Satsuna grinned. She couldn't wait to face off with Kendo, exchange more tips and tricks. If it weren't for the fact the bell was about to go off, she would have gone over to do exactly that. However, like clockwork, Satsuna expected their sensei to arrive in 4-3-2. The door opened and Vlad King, the blood hero, entered with the grace of a powerlifter. Kansas sensei, as he told them to refer to him on the first day of class, looked intimidating, but that was superficial. He was a kind man. Satsuna got the dread off of him on day one when he aided Tsunatori in reading out a Japanese passage. He reminded her of a pitbull terrier, something that looked rough and mean, but was cuddly and caring. Their sensei's arrival got the class to quiet out of respect, but that quiet was disrupted when another figure followed him through the door. It was him. The same pro that saved her on the first day of school. Solar Strike. His bright blue eyes immediately drew Satsuna's gaze. Her cheeks grew hot as he walked in with his hands in his pockets, a laid-back smile on his face. He wore the same clothes as he did a week ago, his hero suit perhaps. It was gaudy and bright in all the right ways and loose enough to make her wonder about what lay beneath. Ugh, great, now those thoughts are in my head. Thanks hormones. Satsuna thought as she shuffled in her seat while her classmates whispered amongst themselves until the bell rang. Kendo stood and led them in greeting Kansas sensei before they all sat again. Morning all. I'm sure you noticed by now my Tagalong and perhaps you've seen him running about the school over the past week. But if you haven't, he will introduce himself to you now, Kansas sensei said, giving the blonde a pointed look. Oh, lighten up, Kansas sensei. He smiled at the class and gave them a lazy salute. Yo. The name's Uzumaki Naruto, Pro Hero and Teacher's Aide to UA's Hero Course. By choice. Kanza-sensei harumphed as he crossed his arms. Yeah, but they didn't know that. Solar Strike pointed out with a smirk. Kanza-sensei gave him the stink eye. The blonde put his hands on his hips and arched a brow. Geez, sensei, lighten up. You're the one that told me to stay away the first week. Unforgivable. Setsuna and a few other members of her class gave their sensei looks of betrayal. In regards to her peers, they likely felt that meeting a young pro hero, barely out of his teens, in the nation's top 20, would be beneficial to their futures as professionals. Setsuna felt that as well, but mostly she'd wanted to see him again to thank him and ask him a question that was on her mind since her escape from that hostage situation. Ahem. Kanza-sensei cleared his throat to regain the class's full attention, rather than their partial ire. Uzumaki will assist me during homeroom and whoever will be your teacher during hero studies. In the meantime, if he isn't present, it likely means he is on patrol or working on his own license. Teacher's license. And degree. Solar Strike clarified, leaning against the chalkboard and slipping his hands back into his pockets. So don't call me sensei, I haven't earned it yet. Just consider me a senpai, you know. Pandu. Setsuna almost jumped at hearing the soft-spoken Yanagi sigh. Oh, wonderful. Judging by the red cheeks she sported, she wasn't the only one who thought their new senpai was attractive. Setsuna quickly returned her attention to the front of the classroom, where Kanza-sensei was asking for their homework to be handed up before they talked about their upcoming hero class. She grinned and pulled the required papers out of her school bag, sparing another glance at the pro hero that was collecting the papers at the front. The day was going to be interesting. Sekijiro Kansas was a relatively reasonable person. While active as a hero, he was known for his de-escalation and capture skills. That being said, his temper was also infamous. Given his physique and the fact that his hero name was inspired by the original Dracula, it's not that surprising this was the case. What was surprising was the reason for his anger today. You can't be serious. Sekijiro stared incredulously at the deflated form of All Might that lunch hour. Again. I swear, Sekijiro, I never intended to use so much of my time today, but there was a hostage situation outside of a dingo's on my route. I couldn't in good conscience overlook it. Toshinori Yagi shrugged, his oversized suit flooding over his body. Shouda, I need you to restrain me before I kill him. Sekijiro requested of his fellow first-year teacher. I'm having my nap time. Go wild. The underground hero deadpanned. Snickers erupted from the other heroes in the room. Aizawa. Yagi gaped at the blatant dismissal of murder. He looked back at Sekijiro's scowling face. And now, be reasonable Kansas. Don't do anything either of us will regret. Yeah. Chill, man. So the little listeners won't get to rap with All Might in their lesson, what's the big deal? Hisashi Yamada, aka present Mick, asked the increasingly irate teacher. The big deal? The big deal is that Class 1 has had 3 lessons with All Might at the helm. Class 1B has yet to have one. And that isn't for lack of trying. Kansas growled while glaring at the shrunken Yagi. A large furred hand clapped onto his shoulder and a gruff voice growled into his ear. Calm down, Kansas. Ryu Inui, or rather, Hound Dog, advised. Was he being serious? Sekijiro glared at him from the corner of his eyes. I am the perfect definition of calm. Your blood packs are boiling. Hound Dog pointed out. He added a bit of a growl to his voice. Calm down. Now. Sekijiro huffed through a flared pair of nostrils and sat down at his desk, arms crossed. I understand there is a reason outside of your control for the time limit, but such favoritism isn't something we do here, All Might. You have other classes, other children, to be responsible for. You can't go around saving the day every morning. How are other heroes supposed to make a living or grow if you keep interfering on your daily route? He's got a point. Snipe pointed out, looking up from his meal to give the deflated hero a sidelong stare from behind his mask. Tain't right to spurn the Youngjins like that. Thank you, Snipe. As usual, the third year's teacher's logic and morals backed Sekijiro's own argument. We have multiple heroes around, doing good work. Let them, oh I don't know, earn their paycheck. Plus if we ever get into crisis mode, we got our own boss's music to blare at him. Yamada thumbed towards Uzumaki, who was face first in a bowl of ramen, oblivious to everything going on around him. Sekijiro was a little concerned that that was still possible. He snapped both of his fingers and released an amplified yell in excitement. Idea. Have Solar Strike take over a lesson? Absolutely not. Aizawa and Sekijiro deadpanned. Sekijiro looked at Aizawa in surprise. The erasure hero gave him a flat stare. He's not even licensed. Counterpoint. Yamada pointed at Yagi, who flinched. Sekijiro and Aizawa scowled as present Mick's grin grew. So it's a toss-up with the old guard and the young buck. Least the kiddos won't be as starstruck to pay attention when one of them is teaching, yeah. They're going to find out about it. It's going to crush them. Sekijiro frowned. If their feelings get hurt that bad by getting snubbed by the symbol of peace, Aizawa snorted the title out which made Yagi flinch again. Then they need to reevaluate their reasons for being here. Says the man whose class has had him already. Get off your high sleeping bag, Eraserhead. Sekijiro grunted. Life isn't fair, and arguably, they'd be better off with you and Uzumaki than Uzumaki and All Might. That's uncalled for. Yagi muttered. Aizawa glared at him out of the corner of his eye. Your idea of lessons was to make two clearly incompatible student personalities fight each other. We drew lots. One of them was nearly hospitalized. Again. How we let someone with so little control in, I'll never know. You still picked him for your class. Sekijiro pointed out. Because I can stop him from snapping his spine by accident. Snapping his you're talking about the little green bean that took out the 0-pointer. Snapped his fingers. Across from him, Uzumaki choked and lowered his fifth bowl of lunch Russia's ramen. How he convinced the food hero to make him that dish, Sekijiro would never know. Sekijiro arched his brow. Uzumaki choked on ramen. That's a first. Wait, hold on. The blonde youth in question held a hand up as he coughed and cleared his throat. When he was finished, bright blue eyes were locked on the sharpshooter hero. Midoriya took out a 0-pointer. What? Yeah, jumped up like All Might here and shouted smash. Before he shattered it to bits. What an Uber fanboy. Yamada chuckled. Aizawa likes him. I do not. He, like the others, has potential. Aizawa muttered. He scowled at All Might suspiciously. But his tendency to smash is an issue I need to deal with. That's going to be a habit to break. Uzumaki wrinkled his nose. What habit? What are we talking about? Cementus asked as he walked in with his lunch tray. Snipe waved him over to give him a rundown. Do you have any idea how many kids nowadays think that punching things to rubble is the best way? Kanza-sensei, remember Faye? They had a quirk that let them teleport. Ah, yes. They seem to be doing well back in China. Number 206 if I recall. Sekijiro smiled as he thought about his class from several years ago. Uzumaki nodded with him. Yeah, first year, he would teleport behind people to rabbit punch them. Sekijiro grimaced, he remembered that particular hurdle Faye had trouble overcoming, while other teachers went wide-eyed. Uzumaki continued to air his former classmates' dirty laundry without a care in the world. Always had to bust out his surprise smash, they didn't realize how predictable, let alone how dangerous, that was. They were in the low end of the class until they wised up in second year. They went from a brawler to a precision hitter, and now they're rising in the ranks. And the point of that story is? Midoriya isn't a bodybuilder. Uzumaki pointed his chopsticks at the beatboxing hero. Kids built, don't misunderstand, but if he keeps going All Might all the time, he's gonna blow up. In a bad way, you know. And how would you fix that? Aizawa asked, peeking out of his sleeping bag. Teach him kickboxing or Muay Thai. Uzumaki pointed out. He paused and turned to All Might. Speaking of, why don't you kick stuff? Well, I mean punching works. Yagi rubbed his neck. And it's fun. That's fair. Uzumaki nodded in understanding and resumed eating. Sekijiro groaned into his hands as the other teachers chuckled. That was his star pupil. He glared at the deflated number 1 hero and then down at his meal. Yagi. He said, gaining the room's attention. I cannot, in good conscience, let this stand. This favoritism, even if it isn't that, will negatively affect my class. If they find out the number 1 hero in Japan and the world has been teaching Wana and not them, it will crush them. Well, what are the chances they'll find that out so soon? Cementus asked. Sekijiro looked up at the others in the room. They're already thinking about confronting 1A. Already? Damn. Yamada whistled. Last year, the classes waited a month before their rivalries flared. It didn't hurt that Aizawa was recovering from that drug bust that happened 2 weeks in. Hound Dog pointed out. There was respect there. That's significantly lacking this time around. Sekijiro admitted, thinking of one potential troublemaker that had come to him with questions about his placement. So? Kids shouted at each other to act all big and tough. Uzumaki snorted. We did it all the time, you know. Your class had to deal with my lackluster follow-up to class expulsion. Aizawa pointed out. Oh, yeah, B was the best at your good times. Uzumaki chuckled somberly and shared a look with Sekijiro, who gave him a small smile. Sekijiro sighed and looked at Yagi. If you cannot get this impulse under control enough to treat the entire hero course fairly, I will have to go to Nezu with this. Sekijiro warned. All Might winced. You said in your interview that you would not have issues with bias because you want the future to be protected. I do. Yagi nodded firmly. He met Sekijiro's eyes. Kansas, I will do better. I promise. I'll believe it when I see it. Sekijiro huffed. He looked at Uzumaki, who had his brows furrowed in confusion. Naruto, it seems that All Might will once again be unable to teach 1B's Hero Studies class. Do you think you can help me today? The sharp dig was unnecessary, but Sekijiro wasn't one to easily forgive such foolishness. It would be his last shot at All Might. Today, anyway. Uzumaki glanced to his right, meeting Inui's gaze. We can reschedule our session, Naruto. It's no trouble. Sekijiro arched his brow, he wasn't aware Uzumaki had been in therapy, but then again, a lot has happened in the past week. Perhaps he'd stumbled across some triggers while helping 1A. Or maybe it was a requirement, considering the reason for Uzumaki's new tenure here. Who knows what stupid stipulations the commission put on the boy. Nezu probably did. Little rat dog bear person knew everything. Okay. Then sure, Kanza-sensei. Excellent. Sekijiro sighed. At least they'll get someone with experience. Harsh. Cementus muttered around a bite of his salad while All Might shrank down again. Well, tough. Sekijiro was officially out of shits to give today. If the man didn't like it, he could make good on his word and improve at his job. Okay. It's just like teaching 1A except he didn't have to follow All Might's lesson plan. He had a basic idea of what he was doing. Really. Truly. These poor kids have no idea what they're in for. Naruto hid his nerves behind his Vulpish grin as Class 1B came out from changing into their costumes. Their excitement from earlier in the day carried over, great. That meant the pressure was on. But, rather than have the students beat the tar out of one another in their first practical exercise, Naruto decided to do something his first internship beat into him. Coordination under duress. The duress in this instance. We have to foil a bank heist. We have to deal with a hostage situation. That might be a straight split down the middle. Cool. Yes and yes. Welcome to the nitty-gritty stuff, gang. Basic heroism 101. The lives of civilians are going to be in your hands. You screw up. Well, you'll have to live with the consequences. Naruto played up a more callous-eyed, going to his Awa method, which reminded him of his aloof sensei of a bygone era. It certainly prickled a few of them, judging by the glares sent his way. He shrugged and pulled up a bucket. We can't have 20 of you run in there guns blazing, that's just not fair and honestly, not practical. The amount of coordination on that sort of assault requires either a very high intelligence quirk or a large support team, but that's lessons you'll learn down the line. Sensei Hiryu Rin, the Chinese exchange student, started, only to be cut off. Senpai. He corrected with a grin. Senpai, what are the specific details we have for this exercise? Good question. Naruto gave him a thumbs up. You have 12 scared civvies inside. You don't know how many villains there are. Quirks unknown. You can only have 3 people per group. You have 10 minutes to figure it out. But there are 20 of us. Kasei Tsuburaba pointed out. That just means one of the Naruto paused to do a quick mental calculation. 7 groups will have an unfair disadvantage number-wise, however, their advantage is they will go last, but they get to learn from all of the others' mistakes. His cheery tone did not put them at ease. Perfect. And now you have 9 minutes to form teams. He added. That certainly lit a fire under their butts. Move out of the way. Hey, let's team up. No way, work with me. No me. Does anyone want to calm down and consider this rationally? Who has arranged quirk again? We need a team name. And poses. Yes. Together we shall dominate this course and show those fools in Wano who the best heroes are. This is fine. Naruto mused to himself as he watched the chaos unfold. He pulled out a preheated cup of ramen and started eating. His lunch had been interrupted by Kanza-sensei's argument with Yagi, which, to be fair, was a justified ribbing. If only it hadn't been done during his lunch hour. 3 more cup ramens later, and Naruto was full. Oh, and 1B had finally finished dividing themselves. I'm impressed. He admitted to the eagerly awaiting class. I didn't think you guys would manage more than 2 groups before the time was up. Also, you do realize you could have asked the only pro hero here how you should divide yourselves up. But, sir, you didn't. Say? Of course I didn't. You're here to be heroes, kids. Heroes have to think on the fly, sure, but you gotta be able to think first. Naruto chuckled at their confused faces. Look, your partnerships here are okay, they're unbalanced. Honestly, only Kendo and Tsunatori might have the advantage here, and I'm guessing you all avoided Tsunatori because she's still learning our language. There were a lot of sheepish faces in the crowd. That's understandable, but consider the roles reversed, guys. What if you're abroad and out of your jurisdiction? You need money and have to team up with a local hero. They do not speak your language and you're learning theirs. Do you want to be snubbed or benched? Naruto asked. The sheepish faces became even more sheepish. And numerous. My class is full of assholes. The American asked with a confused look. Oh, God. Naruto struggled not to laugh and then she tilted her head. Oh, God, no. She's too pure. His mind crowed in disbelief. Who taught her that? Kendo asked, glaring around the class. Fingers snapped to Monoma. The Naruto thought about what his quirk was. Copy user crossed his arms and smiled in a way that just begged to earn him a punch to the face. Do not punch the smug student, teach him to rein it in. Do not punch the smug student, teach him to rein it in. Do not punch the smug student, teach him to rein it in. No one can prove anything. Asshole. Kendo accused. See? No proof. Monoma's smug grin grew 3 sizes that day. Okay, well, there's one way to solve this. Pony, who taught you that word? Naruto asked in his rough English. Nito did, senpai. She replied, a strong southern accent influencing her English. It was cute. Well, I can prove who did, but since I'm not an official teacher, I can't issue out punishment. Ha! Monoma looked towards Kendo, who was outraged. I can say who did it for peer pressure punishment, though. Naruto added, his grin returning to full force. Oh, the younger blonde slumped as his classmates turned to look at him. Yeah, but that's detrimental to your lesson today, so I'll refrain until after class. First, let's fix those teams. Itsuki grumbled as he hustled across the field outside of Gym Gamma. All Might was ill. The hell was up with that? How does goddamn All Might get sick? And as Awa took over fundamentals today. Rather than do anything with their quirks or costumes, the lazy bastard had them running laps, doing suicides basically. It was physical conditioning that the extras should already be doing at home. This is such a goddamn waste of time. Kitsuki scowled. Keep going, Bakugo, 5 more laps. As Awa mumbled as he passed. Yeah, cuz I was totally planning to stop. Asshole. Kitsuki growled as he rounded the bend closer to the exit of Gym Gamma. Memories of his loss to Deku flashed in his head and he snarled. He caught sight of other costumes in his peripherals and snorted. That must be 1B, the class of lesser extras, not that the other extras in his class weren't, but they were supportive cast members to his protagonist life, so at least they had that going for them. All of them were chattering nonsense, but one clear conversation reached his ears. But for real, senpai, you just took those suckers out in a heartbeat. How'd you get that fast? Some chattering extra yammered, but he did his best to tune it out. Then he heard the familiar baritone of Uzumaki, which caused Kitsuki to stop in his tracks. He panted and doubled over, bracing himself on his knees as he casually eavesdropped. Fast. Being a bit generous there, Tokage. He said to the extra, a girl with green hair and a purple scale costume. The flashy bastard was still grinning his stupid grin. I was going easy since those guys couldn't handle a punch at my top speed. Not really a good idea to splatter a sidewalk with a bunch of villains so early in the morning, you know. I mean, I wasn't opposed to the idea. Uzumaki barked out another laugh. Yeah, I'll bet you weren't. He nodded. His grin died down and he put a hand on the extra's shoulder. You're okay, though, right? Ugh, freaking sap. Kitsuki tried to force himself to run, but something kept himself rooted in place. Curiosity. Boredom. His naturally rebellious attitude towards authority figures. It was probably the last one. I'm fine, senpai. Really. The extra assured him. Was I right? To not use my quirk. Oh? Kitsuki wasn't like that damn annoying, lying, dork Deku in regards to his fascination with quirks, but he wasn't not opposed to learning about someone else's quirk. On the off chance the extra went rogue or something. Or tried to pass him up in the hero popularity poll. Anyone who tried was dead supernova. Kitsuki shivered and glanced at Uzumaki, who still hadn't noticed his presence. In regards to the law, you were in the clear, but what do you think, Tokage? What do you think would have happened if you did split away? You would have clobbered the villains on the spot. Reasonable, Kitsuki would prefer killing them with what might be argued to be excessive force, but that was just him. Well, it depends. Uzumaki leaned back and shrugged. Kitsuki blanched. What? But the whole point of being a hero was to stop villains, wasn't it? On what, senpai? If you got away, who's to say that the 4-armed idiot wouldn't have grabbed more hostages? Or that horsehead? Or even the paper match reject? If they'd gone for another hostage, yeah, I might have intervened sooner, you know. I feel like the first thing a hero should do is de-escalate the situation. Was that even a word? Kitsuki wondered. He understood the gist of the stupidity Uzumaki was pouring out of his mouth, but was it an actual word? Probably not. He leaned against a fence that separated the track from the grounds. De-escalate? The extra asked. That's right. Uzumaki nodded. If I can get a villain to turn themselves in without a fight, then I've done my job the best way I can. Any day someone can walk away without getting hurt. That they can think twice about what they're doing without harming someone else. That's a good day. Not fighting villains. Thinking twice. The hell is this garbage? That is such a load of SH, Kitsuki scoffed. Bakugo. I can see that you aren't running. Damn it. Aizawa must have spotted him. He sprinted away from the fence. The last thing he needed was another demerit for not participating. He started his sprint to catch up with the rest of the losers in his class. This school was so damn lucky it had so many accolades to its name, or Katsuki would have left on day 2. "Who was that?" Tokage asked. "Well, judging by the name Aizawa just shouted, I'm gonna guess that's one doing some physical training." Naruto hummed as he watched Bakugo sprint back towards his class's mob. The faint hint of sparks visible in his palms. He hoped the little punk didn't act out again. That kind of seems like a waste of time. Shouldn't we be working on our quirks while we're here? As my godfather used to say. If you're all quirk, you're all done. Huh? Yeah, if all you do is rely on your quirk. This isn't the career for you. Naruto explained. He smiled at the still confused girl. Quirks are tools, just like knives and guns. We will help you learn to use yours as best we can, but you have to keep your physique in line. Not only does it help you look better for the people you save, but you'll be healthier, be able to take more hits, and be able to pursue villains longer. The list of benefits goes on. Oh, I guess I never considered that. You rarely do, but that's something most will figure out as we go along. Naruto shrugged. You really should go back and change. Class has been over for a few minutes. Oh wait, you never answered my question. Tokage frowned. Naruto chuckled and grinned at her. I mean, didn't I? No. No, you didn't. You asked me a philosophical question in return. You're shrewd, Tokage. Keep that mind sharp. He advised after a chuckle, poking her head. But were you right? Were you wrong? Does it matter now? Will it change your life? No, but… There you go. Don't dwell on the past for too long, Tokage. It's not healthy. Learn from it and move on. Naruto shrugged. He jerked his head towards the main building and led Tokage back towards it. If you can't take a second to appreciate the world you're a part of, then you'll never see the ones that need you the most. What's that supposed to mean? Tokage frowned. Honestly? Still trying to figure that out myself. Naruto grinned as he opened the door for her. The way she'd bit on her lip and looked away was criminally adorable, and he'd know, being a pro hero and all. Lighten up, Tokage. Just sit on it for a while, mull it around and tell me what you think. We can compare notes. But you really should hurry up, Kanza-sensei's not happy about how his role as a hostage went and how many times he had to stop bickering. Yeah, Tokage grinned up at him. But at least he rocked that wig. Yeah he did. Naruto guffawed. This teaching thing wasn't so hard after all. 5. All-out giant monster fox attack. Izuku was still convinced the past 2 weeks were part of a fever dream induced by overworking his body. He might even be comatose in a hospital somewhere after his supposedly phenomenal showing at the UA entrance exam. Was it considered an isekai if he was still in his own world? Pretty sure that's just a fever dream, kid. Some random passenger standing beside him on the train said. Izuku flushed and stammered an apology to the other riders for his muttering. Most ignored him, and the bothered party just wished him better luck in his next life. Anyway. He was still a student of UA, the famous Hero Academy. He was enrolled in the Hero course, in Class 1A, even. His education was overseen by Aizawa-sensei, Aka the underground hero racerhead. Then, the up-and-coming Solar Strike, the 20th most popular pro hero in the entire nation, was even working to become a permanent teacher at the academy. If that weren't enough, his Heroic Foundations class was headed by the #1 hero himself, All Might. Furthermore, he'd become the man's protege and successor in wielding the powerful stockpiler quirk. One for all. The very quirk that made All Might the hero that he was today. If this is a dream, please don't let me wake up, Izuku thought with a giddy grin. And then the train was derailed by a kaiju. Nah, even with that, this was the best dream he'd had in years. Katsuki hated taking the train this early for 2 reasons. The first being that he had to wake up a whole hour earlier than he was used to in order to get through his morning exercises. It was worth it to keep him at the top of the pecking order in his class at UA, granted, considering his class had his second reason for hating taking the early train in it, that wasn't saying much. As stated before, the second reason he hated taking the early train was because that worthless nerd Deku took the same damn train. No amount of glares or snarls would keep the boy from boarding it either, but at least he wisened up on day 2 to not board the same car as Katsuki. Still. It was annoying seeing the little bastard at class. Why did he have to be on the same train? If only he could just arg, it was so damn frustrating. But what was Katsuki supposed to do? Destroy the loser's train pass. Katsuki acknowledged that he was capable of being at times, but you don't screw with other people's train schedules. The fact that Katsuki knew his mother would literally kill him if he tried to damage Deku's train pass was not important. At all. Screw anyone that thought otherwise. Those bastards could go jump off a cliff and die. Damn it. Katsuki growled as the image of glaring red eyes and a supernova floated in his head. That bastard TA had gotten in his head and they'd only had 2 conversations. Granted, he'd also eavesdropped on one of Uzumaki's conversations with some other extra hero wannabe, but that didn't prove anything worthwhile. All the asshole did was spew some crap about not beating up villains. What kind of pro hero said that when there was that leaked video about him literally dismantling a city-destroying cult? Hypocrites and liars, Katsuki snarled as his hand balled into a tighter fist. Everywhere I turned, just another goddamn hypocrite or liar. The public announce system's chime did little to calm the bombardier's nerves, but it fuzzed out when the conductor spoke. A 10-second passed before the message relayed overhead was repeated. I repeat, we will have a slight delay to Mustafa'u station. It appears to be a kaiju incident on the train tracks. Please remain calm. Heroes are en route and the delay will be over momentarily. God. Damn. It. Katsuki ground his teeth before he started shoving his way through the slightly panicked crowd to the front window. He was not going to be late for class and not know why the hell he was. These damn extras needed to get over themselves, this would be settled in a moment. Get the hell out of my goddamn way. Katsuki snarled at another extra that was murmuring with their literal fish lips. His red eyes went wide when he saw what it was everyone was so worked up over. Big. That was big. Goddamn. Katsuki muttered as he pulled his phone out. He quickly sent a text to Izawa, who sent a reply saying he was aware of the situation and that his tardiness would be overlooked just this once. Also. What the hell does he mean don't go fight it? I'm the goddamn best in the whole damn school. That's Sonova. Then the train car was derailed by a massive swinging paw. Once Katsuki woke up, he'd be pissed that the fight was over. Ishii Shinji had seen a lot in his 5-year career as a professional hero. He'd seen Best Jeanist take down the Dugang, a group of liquid emitters that were enamored with a long-defunct product from overseas and led by a mutation quirk villain known as Gong, a dugong-headed individual that was rather simple in etiquette. He'd even seen Endeavor rescue a dog from a tree. The dog was fine for the most part. The tree, however, did not survive the encounter. Then there was the time Shinji saw Airjet actually, he had to sign an NDA on that one. Thinking about it wasn't a crime, but there were the occasional psychics that cropped up and the last thing Kamui Woods needed was to be involved in a legal scandal because he thought about his standing NDA. Point being, Kamui Woods had been a professional for 5 years and still he found himself capable of being surprised by quirks and the people around him. That said, Shinji had never seen a giant fox roaming around the area. He thought only Mount Lady's ego could get so big. That bitch is stealing my thing. Speaking of fat asses, Kamui Woods thought as he side-eyed the trembling newcomer that had been a pro for not even a year. He looked back at the snarling fox and then sighed. Well, go get it. What? Mount Lady looked at him, baffled by his instruction. Me? Seriously? Kamui Woods felt his eye twitch. He could not produce the amount of wood needed to contain a kaiju. Stupid kaiju classes. Yes, you. He said. You're the only hero in the area that could come close to stopping that thing. I'm sorry, Kamui, but I can only grow to 20 meters. Mount Lady gesticulated at the 50-meter tall fox. That thing is twice my size. That sounds like it's your problem. Flex woman. Well, why are you being so mean to me? Well, your debut totally overshadowed my handling of the situation you debuted to stop, Shinji thought. It still stung, being overlooked for freaking fanservice of all things. He shook his head and threw an arm towards the monster fox. Just go try and stop the damn thing. Why don't you? You could distract it with a stick, right? Mount Lady huffed and crossed her arms. She flicked a hand at him. Go on, I've got better things to do with my time than watch you play fetch with a pooch. I'm going to pretend you didn't just say that. Kamui, Woods growled. He glanced back at the fox and okay, wow, how does it have thumbs? My. What a fascinating specimen. Nezu was many things. The keen strategist. The former science experiment. The principal, with emphasis on the pal. The not-so-secret anarchist against the realm of man. A member of PETA. But first and foremost, Nezu was a hero. So, as much as he enjoyed witnessing such wanton destruction caused by the Kanda Superior that was traipsing around the city, he had to act. His phone was pulled out and he hit the number 1 on his speed dial. It was answered immediately. Ashinori, are you on your way to work? Not presently, no. There's a bus of orphans in threat of being roasted alive due to a pileup just outside of Tokyo. And you heard about this, how? I have a smartphone, Nezu. I'm almost 60, not a savage. Note to self, hack the microphone to turn off his news feed. Selectively. Perhaps sign him up for some amusing fan mail. And a dreadful magazine subscription. From one of Endeavor's sidekick no. Sir Night Eye's preferred subscription. Nezu. Ah, he was plotting again. Silly him. Sorry, I was lost in thought. There's a situation developing in Mustafa'u. I can get there in 30 minutes. I just have to save these orphans. I'm sure you will, but I don't believe we'd have a city in 30 minutes. Nezu chuckled in amusement as he watched the many news stations' coverage of the rampaging monster fox. Really, it wasn't even that bad. The fox had some sort of sentience to it, it was trying to avoid damage, after all. What? Is it a villain of some sort? Are the local heroes in need of aid? No. It's a kaiju. Pardon. You heard me. Kaiju. Like that American hero, Godzilla. Ugh, crap. I hate kaiju incidents. Because it's guaranteed to leave collateral. Because they hit really, really hard. The #1 hero in Japan just whined. All might. Yes, Nezu. Use whatever remains of your amazing quirk to grow a set. Nezu hung up and rubbed his face. High-spec darted from thought to thought as fast as the synapses his neurons could manage, and it landed on his next best plan. The teacher aide. Nezu dialed the boy's number. It rang twice before a groggy voice answered. I'm off on Thursdays, Nezu. Indeed you are, but we have a situation in Mustafao. Does it have something to do with the earthquakes? Uzumaki, do you have a window? No. Got crap picked because of the rush move. Still hunting for an apartment. I'm surprised you don't have weight, where are you living? With Auntie Rin and Uncle Pito. Oh, that would explain why you don't know. Nezu mused. Uzumaki's current residence, if it was where he thought it was currently on the opposite side of the city, practically along the edge of the prefecture. No wonder he thought it was an earthquake. If that's all sir, I've got some sleep to catch up on. Naruto, I will be frank with you. Nezu stared at the screens playing the news as one copter zoomed in on the fox's head. What was that? By the ear. Oh my, what a twist. We have a kaiju incident in the making as we speak. That seemed to get his attention. Hold up. A kaiju incident? For real? Yes. Nezu smiled as he heard sheets and bedding get tossed over the line. This would be the first one in 22 years. I'll be there in 5 minutes. And Naruto? Yeah? I believe we may also have an unintentional hostage situation. I'll go through proper de-escalation protocols. Make us proud. Nezu hung up and started typing up the frame for this incident's press release. He did not want to risk having to go against those bastards in Homeland Animal Control Syndicate. They were a bunch of hacks. Yama was used to a lot of things on the job. Believing it was flattering and raised her popularity, so she tolerated it. The occasional civilian wandering too close to a dangerous incident, she was always super careful whenever she had to max out in the city, and still she had to foot the bill for the collateral. Unbelievable. The villains getting a good hit in it happened every now and then. Usually other size-altering villains had less training in combat than she did and focused primarily on their quirk. Fighting other giants was easy as pie. Fighting an actual kaiju? Totally not the same. Nor in her job description. She blamed the minimal funding at her Hero Academy alma mater on the lack of kaiju combat classes. At least her sneak attack went well, but if only punching it in the snout did more than piss it off. How did I let that wooden jackass talk me into this? Down boy. Heel. She dodged back against the snap of its very sharp teeth as spittle flew from its maw. Bitch. Rude. You huffed. It was a surprise to have the giant fox growl a word at her, but she overcame that surprise easily. You're trespassing in a no kaiju rampaging zone, pal. Power down the quirk and come quietly or I will have several new fur coats for the annual Billboard Hero Chart event. Move. Its hand-like paw swiped at her aggressively and she jumped back. Shame about that small office building. Thankfully, the area had been mostly evacuated from what she could tell, anyway. What? She had other priorities right now. Don't judge. Away. The fox snarled. It lunged at her again and she kicked it in the jaw. Yeah? You. Go away. Hot. Okay, you die now. You snarled, running in and sliding under the monstrous animal that was twice her size. Time to even the playing field. You're getting neuter, Ed. Or was it there was no sign of any genitalia? At all. The hell is this thing? Die. What? Oh, that was a lot of large teeth going in her side. Mount Lady cried out as her arm was pinned to her ribs and her flesh was pierced. The fox pulled her out from beneath it and whipped its head back and forth. Something tore and it wasn't just Yu's suit. Lady, shrink. She faintly heard someone shout at her. Kamui Woods. No, his voice was rougher than the one that shouted. After she considered the option, Yu shook her head and she grit her teeth. It'll rip my arm off. And that was the best outcome. Damn it, hold on. Yeah, make it sound difficult, why don't you? Yu snapped at the unhelpful newcomer. She balled her free non-dominant hand into a fist and reared it back. With a defiant cry, she threw her punch. The punch bounced right off of the tooth and now she probably had a sprained wrist. Great. This exposure was so not worth it. Lacquered chain prison. A bunch of trees sprouted around the monster fox's left front paw. The growl from the monster in question shook Yu's entire body. At lying Sonova he said he couldn't stop it. My sweet ass. Yu cursed the wood-based hero. Then she found herself thanking him for intervening when the fox decided that Kamui was too much of an annoyance to be left alone and flung her to the side. As she flew, she used what little wit she had to let her quirk go and shrank. She probably should have done that after she finished flying. Oh, crap. 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 Yu flailed with her good arm and legs as she cleared 3 blocks before Rooftop started getting close to stopping her flight. Mount Lady, go limp. That was the same unhelpful bag that told her to risk losing her arm. So, what, was this his debut? Great. She was about to get saved by a rookie. Her numbers were going to tank. Still, she'd be alive, so Yu begrudgingly listened. Silver lining. Maybe. Something as firm as a steel girder braced her back and shoulders while another firm girder hooked under her legs. She found herself cradled against a solid wall of muscle. Oh god, this wasn't Death Arms with some new mutation or support gear, was it? She was never going to live this down if it was. Hang tight, I gotta roll. Her savior, ugh. Hissed to her. Okay, if it was Death Arms, his voice had just become like 10 times sexier. Or was that the blood loss talking? Yu decided that if it was Death Arms, her newfound attraction to his voice was due to the blood loss. Gravity rolled around her before they hit something solid enough to cause a loud bang on impact. Her savior shifted fast and wind billowed around them. Faintly, Yu heard the people whisper and mutter, but their words were lost. The awe in them was palpable, and she felt bile build in her throat from her worst fear coming true. Being paired up by the paparazzi with some D-lister. If she kept her eyes closed, she wouldn't have to acknowledge reality. She could live in blissful denial and keep her dignity. However, being a blind hero without a quirk that supplemented it was not a brand. Being a blind giant hero would be bad. She'd have to open her eyes. Resigned to her fate of being paired with Death Arms for the foreseeable future due to what would be a tabloid photo cover, Yu cracked her eyes open to see the radiantly glowing form of a man a bit younger than her. Wait, she recognized this guy. A Solar Strike. Ah, hey, you know my name. Awesome. The younger hero, thank God, it wasn't Death Arms. Her reputation was safe. Beamed at her. Literally, that was a bright grin. Yu squinted and started to tune the guy out. Glad I was able to get Kamui to distract that glorified fuzzball. Why aren't you off duty? The HPSC didn't like heroes heroing off duty outside of a crisis. It meant more paychecks had to be signed or something. Probably less payout overall. Crap, he wasn't cutting into her pay, was he? Got called in by UA's principal. Oh, supplemental. Sweet, Yu's paycheck was safe. Now just to angle herself a bit for the picture's weight, was he putting her down? Stay put until paramedics come to assess your injuries. Solar Strike instructed. Oh, yeah, bleeding, she was doing that. Quite a lot of that, and now his jacket was off. Wow, look at those shoulders. Damn. You wanted to say marry me, but in her unprepared and blood loss riddled state, she muttered. Murray May. I'm pretty sure it's still April. Oh, great. A confused pity laugh. He noticed her flub. His smile seemed genuine though, so when? Just sit tight, alright. Yu did not trust herself to speak right now. The insurmountable hero crouched down and launched himself away, back towards the monster fox and Kamui woods. Yu leaned back and looked up at the sky. This could be caused by her blood loss, but Solar Strike appeared to be a hunk. And he was in her age range. He's what? 1, 2 years younger than me? I could find out with a date. Hey Kari. We got a bleeder. Oh, hey. Paramedic. Awesome. Ma'am, we need to wow, you're Mount Lady. Oh, can I get an autograph for my sister once we get you fixed up, I mean. She offered a shaky thumbs up. You held out well, Shinji-senpai. Naruto praised a hero he just saved from being crushed in the jaws of death. His lacquered chain prison was surprisingly effective at tying up the monster fox's paws and limbs. Call me Kamui in the field, Uzumaki. Kamui panted out. Right. Sorry, day off and all. Naruto admitted as he landed on a rooftop several blocks away. The fox kept glaring at him, not surprising since he was a giant glowing beacon when his quirk was active, but unnerving all the same. What are you doing here then? Nezu called me in. Surprised he didn't just unleash all might on this thing. He thinks it might have a ride-along. Naruto explained. Kamui Woods looked at him in confusion, and he shrugged. Unintentional hostage situation. Oh, terrific, this is why we need more front-aligned quirks in the field. Kamui rubbed his face mask. Was that his face or his mask? Naruto was never sure. So, what, someone saw a fox sniffing around and decided to attack it. Then when its quirk activated, it snowballed and took someone. No, I'm gonna go ask. What? It was growling words. Naruto shrugged. You'd have to be deaf and brain dead to not recognize that the monster fox had been insulting Mount Lady. He grinned and clapped Kamui Woods on the shoulder. Lighten up, senpai. Take 5, I got this. Why Naruto leapt off before he could finish. Move on his part, but today was his day off. He was not spending any more of it in a fight with a kaiju if he could help it. He soared over to the giant fox and hovered in front of it. It glared at him and let out a roar that was more akin to a loud bark. He recoiled and playfully waved his hand in front of his face. Buddy. Your breath is rank. Boy. The fox growled. Naruto grinned. He knew it could talk. That's me, then, yeah. A sharp snort made him nod. Yeah, okay. So you can talk, huh? Can you tell me what happened, big guy? Or we gonna have to go a few rounds? Move. No. Don't start that again. Naruto chided with a wag of his finger. The fox snarled and snapped its teeth at him, and he arched a brow. How sharp and mighty your teeth are, grandmother. Pest. I'm trying to help you, pal. Naruto crossed his arms. You won't keep rampaging here. Last chance, tell me what happened and. A subtle jaunty tune rang from his pocket. It's Pinky and the Brain. Pinky and the Brain. One is a genius, the other's insane. I need to take this. Naruto said, holding up one finger while he pulled his phone out. One moment. The fox kept glaring at him but made no move to attack. That was promising. Thanks. Naruto grinned before he leaned into his phone call. Sup, Nezu. Look at the base of its left ear. There's a young child. Okay. Naruto squinted and sure enough, there was a white speck among the large streak of black. Yep. I see him. Ask about it. Hurry up, the longer this goes on, the more likely that someone stupid is going to do something to make this worse. Gotcha. I'll call you back in a second. Naruto hung up and tucked his phone away. He grinned at the fox. So, bud. Where'd you get the kid? Kit. Its left ear flicked. More of the fur was displaced at the base. Sure enough, as Nezu said, there was a child in rags clinging to its ear for its life. Light reflected from her body, but Naruto didn't have to see her face to know she was probably terrified. Scared. Yeah, I'm sure she is. Help. Yeah, I can help her. Naruto's smile turned gentle as he lowered his glow. He floated over towards the child and carefully held his hands out. The child whimpered and ducked closer to her protector's ear. Yes, further inspection revealed it to be a girl. He shushed her whimpers and offered his hands. Come on, kiddo. I won't hurt you. Let's get you down, okay? She whimpered and uttered things in a language Naruto didn't have a hope of understanding. Great. Language barriers suck. Despite that, he managed to coerce her into being held by him. Okay, I've got her. He readjusted his hold on the girl and grinned at the fox. Think you can shrink down? Try. The fox rumbled, almost unsure. Its giant red eyes closed and its brow furrowed. It started small, a slight shrink that was hardly noticeable, before stopping as the fox let out a roar. Whoa. Easy, pal. Naruto jerked back and cradled the girl in his arms as the fox snapped at him. He shot away, before looking back to see the fox writhe and roar in an indiscriminate manner. His brow furrowed, it wasn't chasing him. It seemed like it was in pain. What the? Hey. Shiny. Get down here. A megaphone broadcasted a shout. Naruto glanced down at the speaker. A man with obsidian protruding from his body glared up at him, a megaphone in his right hand. The hero looked at the girl in his arms, who had gone very still. Friend of yours? He asked. She curled into his shoulder and whimpered. Golden eyes narrowed and looked back at the man. Yeah, I didn't think so. Hesitantly, he descended from the sky to hover a good 6 feet off of the ground. You really shouldn't be this close to a rampaging kaiju, sir. Give me that kid. The man shouted, foam frothed from his mouth, his bloodshot eyes looking in different directions. Naruto took a breath and put the kid down beside a nearby mailbox with a pat to her head. Stay. The word was lost on her. He pointed to her and then the mailbox and held a finger up to indicate waiting. She understood that gesture and hid behind the postal service's pickup point. Naruto then turned to the raving madman whose eyes gleamed with drug use. Foamed mouth, reddened eyes trigger. Sir, if you don't put that megaphone down and get out of the way of the rampaging kaiju, I'm going to move you. Like hell. I won't tell you oof. The stone man snarled only for him to double over like a cheap lawn chair as the hero buried his fist in his gut in the blink of an eye. The stone that shielded his body shattered all around him and fell away like a cheap shell. He dropped like a thrown rock and Naruto rose back up. Sir. I will not tell you again. Move or be moved. The man wheezed and pulled a weapon from his jacket. A gun. Laughable. The drug user rolled to his back and fired the contents into the air before he promptly passed out. A flare. What was the purpose of? Shiny man die. Oh, wonderful. Naruto turned a flat gaze to the fox that was now charging towards him. Well, that's what I get for being nice. Damn it, I'm not even supposed to be working today. With a resigned sigh, he shot at the kaiju like an illuminated bullet. He bypassed the fangs and claws, not really in the mood to deal with the deft agility, and went under the legs to the rear. No twig and berries. Naruto frowned before he shook the annoyance off. Okay, plan B. He made a grab for the large tail. It flicked just as his fingers tickled the tip and then split apart like a spiral banana. Okay, not one large tail, but 1, 2, 3. His hyperactive mind counted the total. 9. 9 tails. Giant fox. Giant 9 tails. Sure, okay. Let's just get a fistful of a few. It took 5 minutes to gather a good amount of his tails. Naruto grinned, ignoring the sweat that built along his brow and started to rise up. Come on, big guy. Let's go for a spin. I hate trigger. Nezu muttered, having found a clip of the fox being hit by a very small speck. Typical Channel 5 news, going above and beyond in regards to coverage. He'd have to increase his donations to the station come sweepstakes time. We're here live at Mustafao Station Bridge, behind us we can clearly see the rampaging kaiju. It had seemed to stop moments ago, but just resumed its frenzy. Channel 36's reporter on the scene declared. Wait, I believe Solar Strike is re-engaging. Yes, he is. He is Holy Mary, Mother of God. Solar Strike is lifting, I repeat, lifting the kaiju into the sky. It was unbelievable to see such a hulking monster just so easily taking airborne. Very few had the ability to even attempt such a feat. Then again, this was one of UA's most prominent graduates. As soon as the kaiju was taken to the skies, the flaring speck swirled in the sky like the center of a solar system of blurring orange fur. The kaiju is being spun like a top and oh, bleep. He isn't going to throw that thing, is he? He better take the shockwave of that drop into account. Nezu mused as he took a sip of his tea. He chuckled as the city shook with the kaiju's impact. Oh, who am I kidding? He won't. Did we get that? Takeru. Did you get that on camera? Pretty sure the camera's busted. Bleep. Okay, so, in hindsight, throwing the kaiju quirked fox straight down into the city after building momentum was not his best move. It certainly got the message across, though. What that message was, Naruto wasn't entirely sure. He really needed to get back in touch with Yamanaka and hire her as his PR/social media manager so that someone with the know-how could spin it for him. At least the fox shrank down upon being knocked out by the attack. Before the smoke cleared, he went and grabbed the little lady he tucked away. Thankfully she was still by the mailbox, curled into a ball in her diamond form. Durable kid. She was elated to see him though. And started yammering in that language he didn't know. He only knew some English and a smattering of Spanish. As far as Naruto knew, Solntz wasn't from either. You, little miss, are quite the chatterbox once you get going, huh? He asked, amused as he walked toward the kaiju incident recovery tent with the child sitting on his shoulders while he carried the unconscious shrunken kaiju in his hands. Diamond Girl, oblivious to their language barrier, let out another chatter and clapped her hands in merriment. He ducked into a tent with an Ouroboros around a fan posted outside. Yo. Uncle Beto. Auntie you're in. I need a translator for I don't know, European maybe. And a vet. Well, if it isn't Mr. Collateral Damage. Naruto's uncle, Nahara Beto, aka the relief hero, Toby, looked up from where he was bandaging an older man's bleeding head. The dark-haired man had orange-tinted goggles over his eyes and wore a Navy utilitarian uniform not unsimilar to a military medic's typical gear. He patted the elder on the shoulder and walked over to meet his taller nephew with a similar grin. Gone out to stop a kaiju attack and came back with a kid and a pet. Overachiever. Aha, very funny Uncle Beto. Naruto rolled his eyes. He shoved the unconscious kaiju into his uncle's hands. Here, fix this. I need Auntie Rin's brainpower. What the hell am I supposed to do with this thing? Obito asked, holding the unconscious fox like it was an ugly child. Edit a nice pillow or something, I don't know. You're the rescue hero. Naruto called back as he walked toward a curtained bed. He reached up and pulled Diamond Girl from his shoulders and held her securely against his chest. She babbled something at him and he grinned. Honey, I wish I understood what you said, but don't worry, Auntie Rin will check you out for any boo-boos. How's that sound? Sounds like you picked up another stray cat that is not a cat. The bewildered woman had shoulder-length brown hair and big brown eyes, the latter locked on the child in her arms. 2 purple bars rose from either cheek and her navy uniform matched her husband's. Auntie Rin. Naruto grinned as he shifted Diamond Girl to one arm and embraced his aunt godmother in a one-armed hug. He backed away and gestured to the kid in his arms. This is Diamond Girl, this is my Auntie Rin. And she probably knows whatever language you're speaking. Diamond Girl gave a shy wave. Oh, just look at this sweetie. Naharin, Akametiket, the patch-up hero, smiled sweetly at the girl and rubbed her diamond locks. "Hi there, sweetheart, it's nice to meet you." The girl gibbered something in her language and his aunt hummed and nodded. She began speaking it right back to her, much to her and Naruto's delight. They exchanged a good minute-long dialogue before Auntie Rin took her off Naruto's hands. "Solar Strike, this is Yelena. She's from Russia. And she is 4. Rin embellished her origin country and her age. Naruto grinned and rubbed Diamond Girl Yelena's head, which made her preen under his touch. 4. Wow, you're so brave to be so far from home, you know. He praised, glad that his aunt was here to translate for him. He met Rin's gaze while tickling the girl's side with a few pokes and prods. "You mind taking care of her for a bit while I call my boss?" "No need, Uzumaki," Nezu proclaimed, hopping up onto a crate. His sudden appearance certainly surprised those unfamiliar with the UA principal's eccentricities. "Jesus. Ah, my heart. Eek, a mouse. Am I a mouse? A cat? A platypus? Who knows? All that matters is that you sign my paycheck and approve my overtime." Naruto deadpanned. "Well, yes to one of those." Nezu smiled. "I'll speak to the HPSC on your behalf in regards to whatever this overtime you speak of is." Typical. Naruto's mutter was echoed by his aunt. At least she understood and sympathized with his struggle. "And ensure that this, Yelena, correct?" Nezu asked. He said something to the girl in her native tongue and got a happy trell from the child. "Reunites with her family. I do believe Edelweiss and God will be quite elated to see their daughter again." "I'm not familiar with those names," Naruto admitted. "Oh, I didn't tell you?" Nezu asked. "This young wonder is the daughter of Russia's number 6 hero. She's been cracking down on human trafficking over the past year since young Yelena's disappearance into the underworld." Naruto glowered and clenched his jaw. "Human trafficking, huh? Indeed. Quite odd that we found a victim of such a thing so shortly after the Cult of Pain, a known organization that made quite the profit in the horrid practice, was overthrown. One might even think the cult could be behind this." Nezu mused. He smiled at something Yelena said and chuckled. "Well, you have gained quite the admirer, Uzumaki. But I must ask, what happened to the kaiju?" "Oh, I left it with Uncle B." "Ow, damn it. Watch your fingers, people. It bites." Yips and growls caused some yelps and cries before a small red furball shoved its way to where Naruto stood. The diminutive fox barked and yipped as it darted around Auntie Rin's legs. Yelena cried out happily and reached for the animal. Rather than risk it growing again to appease the child, Naruto snagged the fox and hefted it under his arm. It yipped and whined and laughed as Naruto held it out to Yelena to be pet. "That is too adorable for words," Rin muttered. "You wouldn't be saying that if you knew what it was saying." Nezu chuckled. "Don't ruin this for me, Nezu." "Well, everything seems to be under wraps here. Uzumaki, you'll be speaking at a press conference tonight about the incident." "Press duty? What?" "Naruto." Auntie Rin gave him the look. Naruto hung his head in defeat and acquiesced with a grumble. "So much for sleeping in." Rin nodded and then smiled at Yelena. "Say goodbye to the cute fox, Yelena. Auntie Rin is going to give you a checkup before we go call your mommy." "Bye-bye, Fuchs." Yelena waved at the fox and then at Naruto as Rin carried her away. "Bye-bye, Solns." "Oh, that's too cute." Naruto gushed, forgetting about the quirked animal he was holding for all of 3 seconds before it bit him on the hand. He glared at the fox's red eyes as it glared back at him. "Gah. You little boss." "Language, sport." Abito warned as he walked by, briefly nodding at Nezu. Nezu waved back before he faced Naruto. "Uzumaki, come with me and I'll brief you on your approved topics for the press conference. Bring our new fuzzy friend." "Yeah, my pleasure." Naruto mumbled. The fox growled at him and gnawed on his hand. He squinted at it. "You're one bite away from becoming a fur coat, fuzzball." The fox released his hand and licked his face. "Ah, stop. Stop, you know. That's so gross." 6. Anarchy in the USJ. Thursday nights were a hassle on a good day, since most of the day he spent catching up on the sleep he was denied when his quirk was at its peak, but after he had to attend a press conference organized by UA in regards to the Kaiju incident, it was all the more bothersome. Annoying questionnaire-aside, parasitic idiots had the gall to ask him about working on his day off, which yes, it annoyed him a bit, but why the hell wouldn't he intervene in a freaking Kaiju incident? He was a bona fide pro-hero. It's literally his job to act in the vicinity of a crisis. Naruto also had to take the cause of the incident to the QARD, Quirked Animal Registration Department, to register and tag it so that the country could keep an eye on it. It would also receive regular veterinary treatment to ensure it didn't spread any diseases, quirk-related or otherwise. The little fox's near sapience made the higher-ups hesitant to leave it loose, but Nezu convinced them to leave it be. Solar Strike wasn't afraid of a lot of things, but damn was his new boss scary. Super smart and a great teacher, but wow, the guy was creative in passive threats and cruel. Naruto suspected Nezu had a strong sadistic side to him, which was surprisingly not rare in heroics, but that devastating horrifying realization could be postponed and repressed for a later day. The reason for his suspicion was because the little mouse dog bear person had the gall to remind him of a paper he had due in one of his online classes. One he was struggling with but was unfortunately necessary for his teaching license. He'd procrastinated this assignment purposefully. Nezu must have figured that out and reminded him that his appointment to the school as a full-fledged teacher required him to have at least a 3.0 average prior to obtaining his license. "I hate this class so much," Naruto grumbled as he flipped through his educational psychology textbook. His laptop was open to the prompt of the assignment and he struggled to wrap his head around the concepts being explained to him. He raked his fingers over his scalp and through his hair before he dropped his face into the text and released a groan into his desk. A soft knock at his door had him lift his head. "Yeah?" Auntie Rin pushed the door open, a smile on her face. "Sorry, kiddo, I know you're studying, but 13 asked me to remind you about helping her plan the field trip next week." She sounded like she didn't get specifics, which she probably didn't. 13 liked to talk. A lot. "Ah, right. Crap." Naruto sat back in his chair and ran his hand over his face. "Yeah, I'll message her in a bit. I gotta finish this assignment first. How's the kid? Procrastinating his homework?" Auntie Rin crossed her arms as she leaned on his doorframe. Naruto spluttered indignantly, faltered for an excuse until she cut him off when she laughed. "Yulena's fine. Poor thing's drained from all the excitement, but Obito's sitting with her now. That's good. She deserves the rest." Naruto smiled. The young, unwilling immigrant situation had been covered up by Nezu during the conference in order to protect her privacy. Her mother's flying in as we speak. Apparently, Edelweiss hijacked a private jet of some millionaire. I mean, if it were my kid, I'd do the same. Speaking of your non-existent significant other, Auntie Rin grinned. "Oh, God." Naruto groaned, leaning back in faux agony. "Alright, lay it on me. Again." "What?" "I saw the clip of your daring rescue. Like the way you carried Mount Lady." "Do?" Naruto stared at her blankly. He'd gotten a lot of people out of the vicinity of the Kaiju incident before he had to give Kamui Woods and his partner some support. "The lady that grew to 20 meters. You had to save her from being literally disarmed." "Oh, her. Right. She seemed nice. I dunno, she was really delirious from blood loss. Oh, snap, I gave her my jacket to help her stop bleeding." Naruto frowned as he remembered the on-site quick tourniquet he had made to keep the bleeding hero alive until paramedics showed up. He pursed his lips in thought as another realization struck. "I'm not getting that jacket back, am I?" "Probably not, no." "Aw, man." He groaned. "Now I gotta get another jacket and have it customized for my quirk for my costume. Maybe I could ask Majima to make it a project for a third year." "Whatever you decide on doing, do your homework first," Auntie Rin sang. Naruto groaned again and flopped his head into the back of his chair. He flinched with her next words. "Then try to get someone's number." "I am never going to escape your mothering, am I?" "No, no, you are not. Have Uncle Obito's kid already. Get a girlfriend first." "Hey." Uncle Obito poked his head into the doorframe above Auntie Rin, making both of them jump. He glared glowing red eyes at the two and scolded them in a raised but hushed voice. "There is a child sleeping out here. I don't care who started the fight, I will finish it. But he or she. Up. I will spank you both. Only one of you might enjoy it." "Obito." Auntie Rin joined Naruto in his outrage. That was too much information. At least Uncle's interjection cut an end to Auntie's grilling as she turned her wrath upon him. Naruto sighed and resigned himself back to his homework since his aunt was right, it needed to be done. The soft hiss and a moderate yelp followed by a muffled thump made him chuckle. Just another night at home. The air was sweltering and unbearable. Sweat poured over his face and his shirt was drenched. He might not be bothered by the heat or the fire, but he was not immune to prolonged exposure and overexertion. "Hurry, I can't hold this much longer. Get the door. It's jammed. The supports are going to give out." "Not on my watch." He snapped. He handed his rescue over to another member of their team and braced the caving ceiling with his arms and back. His teammate stared at him. "Oh, would you losers just move?" "Wait, what about Naruto?" "I got this." He snapped as the brick walls groaned ominously. "Go. Get them out of here. You'll be fine, come on." "But." "Go." "Rescue training, huh? Man, does this take me back," Naruto said as he looked up at the doors of the USJ. He was going over the itinerary for today's training and had to arrive before the class to double-check the security. Nezu was justifiably acting a little paranoid after the press breached the school's gate the day before, hence why he was sent out here early to meet with the other teacher. It was going to involve typical starter stuff such as burning buildings and how to maneuver through an active earthquake. Gotta start them soft before the really crazy stuff like hurricane search and rescue or the sinking ship exercise. Uzumaki. Uzumaki. The cry of his name had him look over at the approaching astronaut. Naruto grinned and jogged over to meet the teacher halfway. "Hey Kuris. How's it going?" he asked. "Going great. Fantastic even. Especially since you sent me that quick lesson plan. I'm so sorry about dumping that on you along with your classes, but there was a lot of cleanup required after the Kaiju incident." The space hero clasped their hands together and bowed to him. "Your aid in collaborating the planning for today's lesson is most appreciated." "Hey, no problem. It's all part of the job." Naruto waved off their gratitude. He rubbed his neck sheepishly. "Besides, the cram session pushed me to find some study buddies, so I think it'll work out, you know." "Oh? Classes to teach aren't as easy as they seem, The underlying vindictive tone they used had him sigh and hang his head. Rejecting their offers to help him study for his license when he announced his abrupt employment at UA was going to follow him to the grave. "No, they aren't. I offered to help." I know. I still have to refuse, I don't think it's fair, you know." Naruto pointed out. He grinned. "Like I said, I found a study group. It's really making the classes easier." "Tell me about your classes." "Oh, no, wait, we should get the unforeseen simulation joint prepped and ready for Aizawa's class." "Yeah. Aizawa-sensei won't be happy if he shows up and we're not ready." "He makes you call him that, doesn't he?" 13 asked. Naruto hung his head in defeat. Again. "I don't want to talk about it, you know." "Goddamn Deku." Katsuki glared daggers at his childhood friend, and he used the term loosely. It was supposed to be a good day, but that lousy nerd had to act all humble on the bus. Now Dunce Face and Frog Face were ragging on his personality. As if he had a personality flaw. Katsuki did not have any flaws. "You should chill, Bakugo." Raccoon Eyes advised him with a small laugh. He glared at her and she shrugged. "What? Just saying, you're only proving their point." "The hell did you just say?" Katsuki snarled and glared at the pink-skinned girl. "Why don't you explain yourself, huh?" "I mean, she did. Just now." Soy Sauce pointed out with a chuckle. Katsuki scowled and hopped to his feet. "You wanted to elbows. Knock it off." The hobo that was their sensei warned. Katsuki scowled at him but sat back down in his seat. Aizawa crossed his arms as he faced them from the front of the bus. "I don't want to deal with any dry eye on this drive. I don't even want to be awake. If I have to wake up again before we get there, it will not be pleasant and there will be expulsions." "Well, at least the bastard knew how to shut the extras up." "Why don't you make Uzumaki-senpai watch over us then?" Clothes asked, oh so innocently. Bah, as if her ploy wasn't obvious. What any loser saw in Uzumaki as an idol, Katsuki didn't know. "Idiot." Katsuki snorted at the airheaded invisible girl. "That dumbus isn't even here. How could he watch over us?" "Uzumaki will meet up with us at the USJ and no, you cannot pester him about the Kaiju incident. That is still an ongoing investigation and the details will not be shared with a bunch of teenagers." Aizawa groaned as he rubbed his face. Katsuki grumbled at the reminder of that terrible Thursday morning while the rest of the extras started to murmur amongst themselves. "Quiet, we've got 30 minutes left on the drive. My warning stands. So, no sing-alongs. Kaminari, this is your last warning." Aizawa's quirk flared for a second. He looked over the others. "Anyone else want to try their luck?" "No, sensei." The extras chorused. Katsuki just kept his mouth shut. What? He wasn't going to say anything if he didn't have to. He might not like the hobo, but he respected him as much as he respected his dad. Which wasn't saying a lot, but it was still something. Class 1 rolled up on time and unloaded in relative peace. All of them were dressed in their hero suits and Naruto tried not to bruise himself as he pinched the bridge of his nose. Yayoi Rozu's costume still wasn't ready, yet the upgrades she had requested were simple but time-consuming to implement and he couldn't tell if Hagakure was wearing her new suit or not. Not to mention the literal diaper that Mineta had adamantly kept on his costume. The boy claimed it was a bowl for his grape why goodness, but Naruto suspected the boy had some kind of infantile kink. He really tried to bury that concerning thought in the back of his subconscious. It still sounds like Universal Studios Japan. The loud mouths of the class cried out once 13 finished explaining what the building was. That will never not be funny. Naruto thought. It was pretty much a rite of passage reaction since the USJ had been built. He grinned when Aizawa walked over to him. "Have a good nap, Aizawa-sensei." "Where's All Might?" Geez, this guy could be such a buzzkill sometimes. At least Kanza-sensei entertained his playful nature. "He's not with you?" Naruto arched an eyebrow. Aizawa gave him a flat stare. "If he rode with me, I wouldn't have been able to nap." His eyes narrowed. So, where is he? I dunno. Naruto shrugged. Haven't seen him. I thought he was riding with you, since this was his class. Oh, are you asking about All Might? 13 asked, joining the conversation. They beckoned Naruto and Aizawa in closer before they whispered. All Might overextended himself this morning en route to the main campus. There were a lot of villains acting up this morning, or so he said. Ugh, that idiot. Aizawa groaned into his hand. I mean, you're not wrong, but you've gotta admire his diligence to the craft. Naruto chuckled. Aizawa glowered at him and sweat built on the back of his head. The blonde tried to wave off his former hero law teacher's growing ire. Lighten up, Aizawa-sensei. It's just one class, I'm sure we'll manage without him. Kanza-sensei and 1B have been doing just fine. Like I want to know. Geez, no coffee for you today, huh? Erasure sent a weird tingle down Naruto's spine, as well as made his body start to feel really warm, and he held his hands up defensively. Okay, no more jokes. Let's get the lesson started, huh? You finally say something worthwhile, Aizawa mumbled as he strode past Naruto with 13 at his side. Naruto harumphed. Rude. Uzumaki-senpai. Senpai. Elated cheers brought the blonde out of his funk. Before he knew it, one had half swarmed around him and Naruto took it upon himself to keep them all moving. He had no desire to stay on Aizawa's bad side, after all. Hey guys. Are you ready to dive into rescue tactics? He asked. The glee, anticipation and excitement present in all 20 of the students made his grin widen. It's the most important thing to learn about being a hero. You're gonna love today's class, I guarantee it. Izuku was, in Kaminari's words, absolutely stoked for the field trip today. Not only was it a joint lesson with 3 pro heroes, he still wasn't over the fact that his homeroom teacher was Eraserhead, or that his class's TA was Solar Strike, or that All Might taught his Hero Foundations course. Especially when one of those heroes was the space rescue hero, 13. She saved so many people, right up there with the rest of the staff. He thought giddily. What? Izuku was a hero nerd and proud of it. Really? Okay, so he was working on the pride part, but the point stands. Seeing as I don't run this place, I'll leave 13 here to give you the lowdown. Aizawa-sensei explained in his usual blunt manner. He crossed his arms and nodded to 13. The floor's yours. Yes, but so is the ceiling and the rafters and 13 trailed off. Izuku learned very early in life about agender and genderless people due to so many different heroes and the way they identified cleared their throat. To start, does anyone know what my quirk does? Oh. Uraraka-san waved her hand in excitement, even jumped in place a bit. You can make black holes and save a lot of people with it. That's correct if simplified, but it can also kill people if I'm careless with it. There was a tonal shift that gave pause to the entire class. Pay attention, guys. Yuzu Naruto-senpai said, breaking the tension that had paralyzed the class. This is important. If a quirk is used incorrectly, great harm can be caused to either the user or whoever it's used on. 13 explained. You tested your limits during your aptitude test. You saw how using your quirk on others can cause injury as seen in your combat trial. Today, we will be going over how your quirks can save people or how difficult they could make saving people. What do you mean? Shiro asked, holding his hand up. Good question. 13 clapped their hands together. Like your classmate said. Uraraka. Aizawa supplied. Izuku was pretty sure Uraraka just died of bliss. Thank you. Like Uraraka-san said, I can use my quirk to save many lives. Yet, if I'm not careful, I can also turn them to dust. 13 tilted their head as the heavy aura fell on them again. Identifying what your quirk does, judging its use in a crisis, and knowing its limits are all things needed to make even the most deadly of quirks into those that can save lives. Let's use Bakugo's as an example. Yuzu Naruto-senpai offered, seeing a few confused faces still among the class. There's a burning building, and Bakugo is the nearest pro hero to the scene. His quirk might be considered detrimental to rescue efforts, but there's other ways he could help. Before you say anything else. Yes, you do have to respond to that sort of emergency if you are within 15 kilometers of the event. Aizawa-sensei added, likely to keep Kakin from acting out. Regardless of your official status or ranking. The failure to act to save lives or help other first responders can result in heavy fines, license suspension or even prosecution for criminal negligence, depending on the scenario. Izuku didn't know that. Then again, what heroes would ever not? His eyes went wide. Like the sludge villain incident. He muttered. The weight of Kakin's gaze fell on him and he swallowed. He could already hear the pops of Kakin's quirk. Correct. 13 nodded. That was an extreme case of negligence on those pro heroes' part. They were fined heavily by the HPSC for their inaction. I still think their punishment should have been much higher. But we're not teaching politics today. Aizawa-sensei drawled, giving the space hero a pointed look. Ah. Right, forgive me for getting carried away. 13 bowed their helmeted head. Now, let's see how we can split into groups and then. Hey, what's that? Kirishima asked, pointing past the teachers. Down below at the courtyard, an oozing black hole yawned open. A horrible-looking gangly man stepped out, covered in what seemed to be hands. Slowly, more and more people appeared in the plaza. It became evident quickly that this was not part of the lesson plan. Izuku couldn't have foreseen the pandemonium that would follow from this one incident. If he could, so much could have been avoided. Okay, question. Did you plan this, Aizawa-sensei? Naruto asked lowly as more individuals appeared alongside the warper. It would not be the first time one of Eraserhead's classes were subjected to an ambush by his cohorts in the underground scene. Spotlights were too well known to make an effective ambush. No, this is real. Aizawa frowned before he covered his eyes with his goggles. Naruto tensed and let a rush of power thrum through his body. Alright, then follow-up question. Do you want the meat or the potatoes? They're better suited to tenderize the meat. Eraserhead, albeit unintentionally, acknowledged his strength. He could die happy now. I'll prepare the vegetables. Try not to paralyze anyone. Naru Solar Strike teased. I only promised to try. I'm sort of pissed off right now. Wow. Present Mick was right. He felt the questioning side-eye from the underground hero and smirked. You're such a dad. I will murder you. We are going to do the impossible. Are you two skipping over my dialogue? The villain with hands on his body that had been monologuing for the past 2 minutes. Yes. Solar Strike admitted. He wasn't paid to listen to ideologies or deranged portfolios of the villain kind. He was paid to stop villains from hurting others. And teaching, but that paycheck was still in the mail. But only because we've both heard this sort of thing before. It's not personal. When you say it like that, senpai, it sounds kind of personal. Which cheeky brat was that? They were so getting points docked off of their next exam he had to grade. Speaking of brats, they really should get them out of. 13. Protect and evacuate the students. Eraserhead ordered, slipping some of his capture scarf into his hands. Solar Strike, with me. Right. Both heroes acknowledged his instructions. While 13 tried to corral one towards her and the main entrance, Solar Strike braced himself and built more energy up as he crouched down. Sensei. Your quirk isn't suited for fighting so many villains on your own. Cute. Midoriya was really scared for him, wasn't he? Solar Strike could tell from the tremble in his voice. Kid earned a patented Helios hug. You can't be a hero with just one trick, kid. Now get out of here. Eraserhead ordered before he charged forward and cleared the stairwell in a single bound. Show off. Shooting squad. Aim and fire. A villain with a chrome dome and metal fingers ordered 2 others. Oh, they had projectile firing quirks. Adorable. The projectiles stopped firing and Eraserhead took them out with ease. I really shouldn't let him have all the fun. Solar Strike mused before he launched himself from the stairwell, only he left a decent crack in the concrete when he did. He grinned at the muscled behemoth behind Hansi and adjusted his trajectory accordingly. He pulled his hand back, balled it into a fist, and taunted the one with a beak and exposed brain. Hey big guy, the sun's coming out. The purple cloud swirled into his path and Solar Strike's eyes widened. 1 second, his fist was primed and ready to brain the exposed brain of the behemoth without a cranium. The next, Solar Strike had suddenly smashed into the ground just in front of Class 1A, creating a crater that warped the doors. What the hell was that? He made that so fast, not the time. Solar Strike scowled. He pushed himself to his feet and expelled the debris cloud from the air with a firm swing of his arm. Class 1 and 13 were knocked from their feet at his impact. Sound off. Anyone injured? He asked. I'm fine. Was the general consensus from the students. Piss off, asshole. Came Bakugo's snarl. Solar Strike was going to have to pull him aside later and remind him about what was and what wasn't approved terminology when speaking to a pro hero. I hadn't expected you to stay conscious after a rush into a concrete wall. The smooth voice from behind had Solar Strike whirl around and swing at the speaker. His fist distorted the mass of purple mist that made the head of the villain. Rude. You do not get to chide me on manners, you know. Solar Strike sneered. The villain paid him no mind, staring past him at oh hell no. Solar Strike made distance between him and the vapor-based warper and stood firmly between the villain and the students. I do not want to cause any untoward stress, but my master wishes to end the life of All Might. You talking about the creep with a hand on his face? Bushido, you are not ready to engage in banter with a bona fide villain. That's later in the semester. Solar Strike half-joked. It was supposed to be in the next foundation lesson topic. Which was ironic because All Might, in most of his televised interactions, kind of low-key sucked at banter. Toshinori confided in Naruto that he was dreading that lesson. I'd thought such a lesson would be trivial for heroics. The villain mused. Please, we're professionals. Solar Strike snorted. He straightened up and crossed his arms. The wrong words used in banter could easily cost a hostage their life, and poorly timed or outright unintentionally bad jokes could ruin a reputation. You're Solar Strike. Why are you wasting time teaching after your victory over the cult of pain? Why are you flapping your gums instead of killing All Might? Solar Strike scoffed. I mean, if you're going to stall, the least you could do is introduce yourself. Ah, yes, how inconsiderate of me. I am Kurogiri, and we are the League of Villains. Are you sure you're not the leader? Solar Strike asked, arching a brow. Flattery will not save you. Well, it was worth a shot. Solar Strike shrugged. He lifted his hands and balled them into fists. So, what's your big plan? Killing All Might? Seriously? That's it? Senpai. Midoriya gasped along with a few others. Solar Strike looked at them over his shoulder. What? It's overdone. I mean, you idiots could try to be original. You'd have better luck keying his car. Why would we? Kurogiri failed to find words. Seriously, have you seen All Might's car? The blonde pro shook his head. Man's got an Italian muscle car. Think of the clout if you did that and lived. Of course, All Might wouldn't care. He's got too much money to know what to do with it. You could have done a number of things, but instead you went the clichéd. Sir, I am offended. Be that as it may, if we cannot kill All Might. Offended? You're testing me. Screw you. Die. A pair of blurs rushed past Solar Strike before he could react. Bakugo he'd expected to have moved like 15 seconds ago, but the happy plucky Crimson Riot homage known as Kirishima. Solar Strike was so disappointed. Yet, oddly proud. Still, more disappointed at the moment. Wait, damn it. Insolent little brats. Kurogiri hardly moved before a portal opened and encased the two. They were gone. Anyone else? Movement caught the corner of Solar Strike's eye. Okay, Kirishima was admittedly the second to last student he'd guessed to rush a villain, but the absolute last one? Plain boy Ajiro. No. He intercepted the tail quirk boy, catching him under the arm and spinning on the spot. Stay with your class. You should keep an eye on your opponent, Solar Strike. Aw, damn it. Solar Strike thought before he was swallowed by the inky black portal. What if Naruto was a teacher in My Hero Academia? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.